Turn it on Cliff Live tonight. Latest news, it's feeling right. Kamala's speech so tight, yet no answers in our sight. Trump is shouting wild and loud beneath the cloud. Cats and dogs beware, my friend. Springfield rumors never end. Cliff Live bringing news to you. Tune in now, it's fresh and true. Politics with humor strong. Stay informed and sing along. Headlines coming fast and free. Comedy in what we'll see. Kamala dances round the press. Questions left in quiet stress. Trump's wild claims make us think. Cats and dogs on Pizza Rink. In Ohio, who can tell? News and laughter mix so well. Cliff Live bringing news to you. Tune in now, it's fresh and true. Politics with humor strong. Stay informed and sing along. Trump is shouting wild and loud. Felon tales beneath the cloud. Cats and dogs beware, my friend. Springfield rumors never end. Cliff Live bringing news to you. Tune in now, it's fresh and true. Politics with humor strong. Stay informed and sing along.
All right, just doing the final setup here before I make sure everything's good. Where we at? There we go. I think it already started. Where we at? Come on, Kareen. Where are you at? There we go. Why it's so hot in here? Is my fan on? I need to get caffeinated. Yeah.
No, he's like white now. Yeah, I like it.
There it is. I think we can skip ahead forward more. There she is. All right, here is Kareen coming out for our White House press briefing.
Everybody.
It looks like she has some guests with her.
Good afternoon. We've been gone too long. Somebody's missing stuff.
Hey,
Okay. So the president has been briefed on Hurricane Helene, and at his direction, administration officials are in contact with their local and state counterparts to ensure that they have everything they need.
Yeah, I'm in Florida, and when I looked at my weather tracker, it shows it going straight into where I live. So definitely ready for that. I thought it was going more towards the panhandle, but I guess maybe not.
This week, the president approved emergency disaster declaration request from the governors of Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia, which unlock additional federal resources to help these states respond to the storm. And the entire Biden-Harris administration stands ready to provide further assistance to impacted states as needed. We continue to urge residents, especially those who have been instructed to evacuate, to heed the warnings of local officials. With that, I have here to my
Yeah, the Air Force Base there still hasn't been instructed to evacuate yet. In typical Air Force fashion, they're gonna wait until like the last minute to give a evacuation order.
my right, the FEMA administrator, Criswell. Come on up. Deanna, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank
Oh, here
you,
we go.
Corinne. Good afternoon, everybody.
FEMA.
As you heard, I did just finish briefing President Biden on the impacts that we are expecting to see from Hurricane Helene. And as I told him, we have been preparing for this storm for a number of days, and we began moving resources into Florida on Monday. I just want everybody to know that this is going to be a multi-state event with the potential for significant impacts from Florida all the way to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And the president wants to make sure that everyone is paying attention to the potential life-threatening impacts that this storm may bring. And he has directed me to travel there tomorrow to assess the impacts. The entire state of Florida is under some type of warning right now, whether that's a hurricane warning or a tropical storm warning. And we expect life-threatening flash flooding in the state's north as the storm continues to move north. And so I need everybody to pay attention to their local officials. They're going to have the best information on the specific risks where you are at. We're already seeing impacts in...
Yeah, just to show you the path that's going on here, it looks like it's going up through the panhandle like I was talking about. But when you look at the big map of all the weather, it just looks like it's going to annihilate Florida. Assuming this is going up into Florida, we're going to get some weather. We'll have to get some weather.
Florida, and the forecast indicates that we could see up to 20 feet of storm surge. So just think back 2 years ago to Hurricane Ian. The peak storm surge from that was 14 feet, and we saw the amount of destruction, and 150 people lost their lives, the majority of them from drowning. So please take this threat from storm surge seriously. Residents that are in these areas, they can still take action. They can take action now to move out of harm's way. And remember that you may only need to go 10 or 15 miles inland to get away from the threat of the storm surge itself, because water is the number one reason that we see people lose their lives in these storms. So please don't underestimate what the impacts could possibly be. So at the president's direction, we have over 1,100 personnel so far across the federal government supporting the preparedness efforts for this storm. We also have an additional 700 personnel from FEMA that are already in these states supporting other disasters that we can quickly pivot to support any of the response needs as needed. Some of the resources that we have already deployed include 8 search and rescue teams across Florida and Georgia, as well as resources from the Coast Guard, the Department of Defense, to immediately support any life-saving operations as needed. The Army Corps of Engineers has power restoration teams and debris specialists who are going to be able to help restore power and support debris removal operations as soon as it is safe to do so. We have health and medical task forces from Health and Human Services to evaluate the impacts to medical facilities. We have food, water, generators, and tarps that are deployed to staging locations across the region, and so they are easily accessible and movable post-storm. And the Red Cross is actively standing up shelters in areas that are expected to see and feel the impacts from Helene. My regional administrator...
So AP News is reporting that 5 people have died already so far. Here's their depiction of the path. But reporting 38 minutes ago, it says 5 people have already died. Raised the death toll from Hurricane John to 5 Thursday. So this was in Mexico. So not quite in the States yet. Yeah, nothing crazy going on in the States, but I'm sure when it actually does hit us, we're gonna get some bad numbers probably.
Administrator is currently embedded in the Florida Emergency Operations Center, as well as incident management assistance teams in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and we have one currently moving to North Carolina today, so we can ensure seamless communications between the federal government and the needs of the states. I'm very grateful, as you heard, President Biden quickly approved pre-landfall declarations for Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. And this allows us to immediately provide any of that life-saving support in the coming days. And I'm grateful for the rest of the federal family that is there on the ground working with us side by side as we prepare to support the American people for what is to come over the next several days. I just want everybody to know that the Biden-Harris administration, we are ready for this event. We have aggressively pre-deployed resources. We are postured for whatever response might be needed. And so let me just say one more time before I take any questions, take the storm seriously. People in Hurricane Helene's path, you need to listen to your local officials. If they tell you to evacuate, please do so. And if they tell you to shelter in place, then that's what you should do. They're going to give you the best information that you can do for your specific situation. Those decisions can save lives. And with that, then I'll take questions.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Dan. So this is likely to be the 21st billion-dollar weather or climate disaster this year. So does FEMA have the resources to keep on responding to disaster after disaster like this?
So we have absolutely enough resources to continue to support the life-saving response that we need to for this event. I think everybody's aware that we went into immediate needs funding as our disaster relief fund, the funding was running low. But the reason we do that is to make sure we have enough money for an event just like this. And so I want everybody to know that we have exactly what we need, and there are no limitations to our ability to support the response for this disaster. As we continue to go through the recovery, though, for all of these disasters, that also takes personnel. And we're going to continue to work through with our states about what they need and how we can best adjudicate those resources. But we are seeing an increase, and we're seeing a strain on our staff with more of them deployed for longer periods of time, helping to support these communities recover.
And just also related to the money here, some pretty substantial losses projected in terms of the crop insurance, in terms of the flood insurance. There's no new money in the CR as far as this is concerned. Is there any expectation that you're going to have to go back with a supplemental request?
So we did put a supplemental request in with the CR. It does not give us a supplemental at this time, but it gives us the ability to spend the money that was put forth in the president's budget. But we're already through INF $9 billion, close to $9 billion in projects that we have put on hold that we can't reimburse communities for. Once we lift INF and once the CR goes into effect, we'll be able to pay those. But without a supplemental, we will be back in INF probably in the January timeframe.
Can you talk more about how widespread you think prolonged power outages will be and what those power restoration teams are doing to prepare? Is there anything they can do proactively, before the storm?
That's what I'm worried about here is losing power. We don't have a generator, so that would be really bad for us.
So Florida has a really robust plan, and they have really aggressive targets to try to get the majority of people, I forget what the exact percentage is, I think it was 85 or 90% within 48 hours back up. And they have several thousand resources that have been pre-positioned to come in and support Florida Power and Light or the other utilities to help them get the power back on. We expect widespread power outages from this. When we think about Tallahassee, it's got a lot of tree canopy. So those trees are going to come down and impact those power lines, and the debris and the ability to detangle the debris from the power lines is what could take a long time. The power restoration teams, they do a couple of things from the Army Corps. One, they can help us put generators in on critical facilities to help make sure that those facilities have power, but they can also make assessments on how to prioritize some of the work so we know where we need to put our efforts to help the private sector utility companies get the power restored as quickly as possible.
Could you talk a little bit about how the response has changed based on the severity of the storms? I think we're seeing an increasing storms with increasing severity. So how does that change the response for you? I mean, I know it's more manpower, but what else? How else does it change?
I think the biggest thing is that we want to get things in place early. This is why we've been moving resources into the area since Monday and we know there's a large population that's really vulnerable in Florida, and so that's why we have so many search and rescue teams that are able to come in and augment the really impressive amount of teams that Florida already has within the state, right? So this is on top of what they already have. And so for us, it's making sure that we are sending more than we think that we'll need. And if I don't need them, I can send them home. What I don't want to do is be short. I want to make sure that I have enough that can support whatever the states might request.
Good, MJ.
You said that you are headed down there tomorrow. Did you discuss with the president whether it might be possible for him to make the trip down in the coming days? And secondly, is there a single piece of advice or warning that you wish in these kinds of situations people would heed more seriously that you might want to emphasize in this setting?
Yeah, so the purpose of my visit is to assess the impacts, and I'll be briefing him on what those impacts are. I'll leave it to Kareen to talk with him about what, actions he might take. But I think the message is take this seriously. I mean, we look at the cone, and the cone is the wind, but the water is what kills people. And so we need to really look at where this storm surge is going to be in Florida. But Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and those Appalachians, they're going to have up to 20 inches of rain in an area that can have significant flash flooding, and that is really life-threatening, and it comes so much faster than what we see from a storm surge, right? They're going to have less warning once the rain starts there. So they need to know what they're going to do now, put those plans in place today for where they're going to go, how they're going to contact their family and their friends, what they're going to need to take with them, like medicine or power devices for medical reasons. It's not too late. They should be able to put those plans together today so they can take the actions that their local officials tell them to do.
Thank you. You keep talking about the need to follow evacuation orders if local officials give them. We know from past storms that people don't always heed that, not because they don't want to, but because they can't afford to leave the area, don't have anywhere to go, don't have family members to help them. Is FEMA doing anything to work on that particular issue, given what you're talking about with water and the danger that can come from that if people stay in place?
Yeah, so part of the pre-landfall emergency declaration is specifically to reimburse states and local jurisdictions for any of the costs that they incur to do sheltering and evacuation, because we want them to have the resources to put in place whatever measures that they need. I think the important thing on the evacuation to remember is if you're told to evacuate, especially from the storm surge area, it doesn't mean you have to go to a whole other state. And I think we often think of those pictures of contraflow lines and backed up traffic, but you really sometimes only need to go a few miles to get out of harm's way. And so the local officials should be able to tell you where there's local evacuation centers that you can go to until the threat of the storm has passed. And then when we get to the point where if they are displaced, then we have the long-term sheltering concerns that we'll have to work with. But the initial sheltering concern is just getting out of this storm's path for right now. Then we can work on what those long-term needs are. And that's why the pre-landfall declaration is so incredibly important that the president approved, is to make sure that those states have the resources to stand up those shelters and to help people get to safety.
So here is the latest map that I can find on X of it actually being at landfall now that it's 1 p.m. So far, I got nothing. I don't have any rain. It looks cloudy, of course. It looks like anything could happen at any moment. We're under a tornado warning, but nothing so far is really going on. So maybe we're in the clear and nothing bad is going to happen.
Do you feel that the state is ready to stand up those shelters? I mean, you're talking about how you're going to reimburse them, but
And then we got Chad in the chat. I thought today I was going to be alone. Nobody wanted to talk to me, but here you are to save my day. Hey, you're live. How was the hurricane? So I got nothing. That's kind of what I was saying here. I don't have any rain. They're still talking about it, wrecking lives and all this stuff. Again, here's the map that I found. It seems like it's already hit land. I see nothing. Like I look outside, it's cloudy. We got a tornado warning. Nothing crazy is going on. So maybe I'm lucky. Maybe there was different spots. Like as you can see, more towards the Panhandle, they're having the actual weather. But yeah, I see nothing.
is Florida ready to do that?
Florida has stood up many shelters, and the American Red Cross is also there supporting that. I just need people to evacuate and go to them.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Corrine. What resources are available not only to families but also to small business in the aftermath of this storm making landfall? Resources coming not only from FEMA but also from the SBA.
Yeah, there's a number of programs that are available. For FEMA, we specifically made some changes into our disaster declaration, the Stafford Act, recently, which allows people that work from home to actually get compensated for some of their business losses if they work from home, like if they had a computer or other equipment that they needed to do their personal, if they're a photographer and they lost
that's
their
cool.
cameras. So we just made that change recently in March to be able to compensate small business owners that work from home. SBA can speak specifically about their programs, but they've also made some really amazing changes this year, which increases the dollar amount that people can borrow from the SBA. It extends the time where they're going to delay the interest until they have to pay it or to start to repay that loan. And it's a tremendous resource to really help small businesses get back on their feet.
If we ever get a hurricane in Utah, we have bigger issues than finding out how we're all going to get reimbursed. Yeah, but this is actually pretty cool, though. Good to know that if I get hit by a hurricane, they're going to replace all my YouTube gear so I can get back running.
How do you decide where to position yourself tomorrow with the storm making landfall?
So we're looking at where we think the biggest impact is going to be, and right now it looks like it's a dead-on hit to Tallahassee.
Yeah.
And so we'll fly as close to Tallahassee as we can get, and then I'll meet up with the governor and his team so I can see what the impacts are, hear what the team is thinking, and then we will assess, right? I've got staff on the ground that will have the intel as to where the hardest hit areas are. And then typically we like to either get an aerial view so I can fly over and see what some of those damages are, or on the ground if need be. But I'm also prepared to move up to Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, as we start to see what those impacts are and assess that. And because me being on the ground helps me validate some of the damages more quickly so we can get major declarations in place faster.
Last question.
Thank you. At the start of this year, you rolled out reforms to cut some of the red tape for the individual assistance program. Now that so many people are in the path of this storm, can you give an update on how quickly you expect survivors to be able to tap into that, given those changes that were put in effect more than 6 months ago at this point?
Yeah, we've seen some really tremendous positive impact from the changes that we have made. In fact, one of the
So there's some video actually on YouTube. You can see it here. So far, you can see the winds are picking up, which that's what it looks like here pretty much. Just some wind, nothing too crazy yet, but more could be coming. Yeah, give it time. We'll see what kind of damage actually goes down.
changes we made was we decoupled the requirement to apply for an SBA loan in order to be eligible for our programs, and it's really saving people several days in the process, and we're getting a large number of people that wouldn't have come back to us, which is great. We're also seeing people get funding quicker, right? We have a serious needs assistance that can get them a very small amount of money to help with some of their immediate costs, but also the individual and households program that can help them with if they're underinsured. And so it really all depends on what their specific need is. The money that they will see the fastest typically is that initial $750. Any damages to their home, we still have to assess and see what those damages are, and then can make that determination.
My God, insurance in Florida is expensive enough when they try to claim all the damage that happened on their house. Oh, they are fucked. Why does the government always charge interest on their loans? You lost everything, here's some money, but if you don't pay it back with interest, you'll lose everything. The pessimistic side of me is thinking that they're probably not going to be able to get these loans anyway. You know how the government moves. They're going to have so much red tape around everything that they're going to be disqualified somehow, and this money's not going to be available to them.
Termination. But we have teams that go right out in the field. They can register them in the field, and that really helps to speed up the process.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Administrator.
Karina.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, lady.
I just wanted to add, the president asked to have the administrator come to the podium today because of how serious we want to make sure that people out there are taking this. They need to take this very seriously, and also obviously we wanted to lay out our federal response posture so that folks know that we are there for them, and we will obviously be there on the ground as the FEMA administrator just laid out. So please take this very, very seriously. And listen to your local officials. Just want to reiterate that once more. I have one more thing. It's a busy day here at the White House. One of the other things that we're going to be doing, as you all know, today the President and the Vice President are announcing new actions to reduce gun violence and save lives.
There we go.
From the American Rescue Plan to the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act to issuing more executive actions to reduce gun violence than any other administration.
Say goodbye to your guns.
The President and the Vice President have continued to use every tool available to protect people from the epidemic of gun violence. Homicide rates are down 17% compared to the same time last year. And the number of mass shootings this year is 20% lower, but more must be done. So President Biden is going to sign an executive order to accelerate progress on two key priorities: combating emerging firearms threats and improving school-based active shooter drills.
Okay.
Additionally, federal departments and agencies will be announcing a range of additional actions to reduce gun violence, from promoting safe gun storage and red flag laws to improving the background check system. The Biden-Harris administration will continue to do everything it can to put an end to this senseless violence, while calling on Congress to fulfill their duty and pass common sense gun safety legislation. With that, Colleen.
Someone ask her again about political violence rhetoric. Yeah, so she can answer one question and then just walk off. Let's see what they're going to ask her today, though.
Thanks, Green. Democratic Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has been charged with bribery, wire fraud, and seeking campaign funds from a foreign government.
Oh, yeah.
Does the president believe he should resign?
I'm
Yes.
not going to comment on any this particular ongoing matter. I'm going to let the DOJ.
There it is. There it is. I'm not going to comment. I'm going to refer to you to this person. I'm not going to comment again.
Speak to this.
Okay, and then two other quick things. Does the president hope that Vice President Kamala Harris, should she be elected president, will she continue the Office of Gun Violence Prevention? Does he hope?
Look, I'm not going to speak for the Vice President or get ahead of ourselves here.
I'm not going to comment.
But what I will say is, as you know, the Vice President has been a leader on this issue. She leads the Office of Gun Violence and has taken this seriously, not just as a Vice President, but throughout her career, and has been obviously a key partner in all of the actions that this President has done and has taken. So I think
If Eric Adams was a Republican, she would have a different answer. Oh, yeah. Suddenly she would be campaigning.
it's safe to say that she will continue to lead on making sure that we deal with this epidemic. Gun violence is an epidemic. We need to continue to protect our communities, protect our schools, and so I could assure you that she's going to continue to stay laser focused on this issue.
Okay, one other quick thing. As you know, Ukraine wants to fire long-range weapons into Russia, and some Republicans today backed the idea. I wondered why the White House doesn't share that same assessment.
So I think we can expect that one of the conversations that the two leaders will have.
Referred to the DOJ, everyone drink. Yeah, that's coming. That is coming. Why does the White House not back long-range missiles into Russia? Well, because they're trying to avoid nuclear war. Pretty simple.
Would be on this topic, and so there'll be also a broader discussion on the significant amount of military aid we are providing Ukraine. You saw our announcements this morning, although I'm not expecting there be any new announcements on this particular action or a decision coming out of this meeting. I expect the leaders will discuss the weapons system the president announced, as I just stated, and I do want to take a little bit of a step back here. I want to remind everyone watching the briefing how the United States, how this president has mobilized a massive amount of military equipment and capability to help Ukraine really fight back, push back against Mr. Putin and his aggression. It's been almost 3 years. Almost 3 years. And this president has been there at day one. He has been able to bring more than 50 nations together to support Ukraine and their fight for their democracy. And so that's what you can expect. And the president is very proud of the impact of that support, what it's had, and is proud of that coalition. And so, and certainly you'll see more of that in Germany as we announce the president's going to be going to Germany. And so I will leave it there and not go any further. Canceling.
Thanks, Corinne. Mayor Eric Adams suggests that he's being targeted by the Biden administration over his criticism of the migrant crisis. Now, this is the kind of accusation that's similar to what we've heard from former President Donald Trump. So what is the president's reaction to that kind of language being used from a Democrat?
Look, we have been always very clear. The president was clear even when he was running in 2020 that he was going to make sure that DOJ is independent, and the DOJ is handling this case independently. I'm not going to go beyond that.
And Adams was also...
There's a DOJ again, so do you double drink? Do we reset the chip, have another shot? I think bigger escalations of a war would definitely lose them the White House. That's why they are not really trying to stop Israel from attacking anyone. Yeah. Wait until after the election. Maybe they'll actually grow some balls and do something.
At a reception last night with the president at the Met, did they talk?
I can
Assuming Kamala wins.
confirm to you that the president did not see the mayor and they did not speak. Madam Chair.
You just mentioned that obviously you expect the two leaders today to discuss the issue of the use of long-range missiles into Russia. Do you know if the president has any openness to changing his policy stance on that?
Look, I said it's going to be one of a range of topics that they're going to discuss. And let's not forget the president and both presidents saw each other recently, just yesterday. They've had multiple bilateral engagements. This is a continuation of that, continuation of the support that you have seen from the United States, and obviously what the president has been able to do in the past 2+ years and bringing nations together to continue to give support to Ukraine. What I said is I could expect this to come up as a topic, but I wouldn't expect any new announcements. I'm just not going to go beyond that. You all will see the president momentarily and President Zelensky in this pool spray, as you know, in the Oval, and so you'll have an opportunity to hear directly from both of them. I just don't have anything beyond. There's no announcement that I would expect coming out of this. Announcement.
Just separately on this Lebanon ceasefire proposal that was released last night, I'm sure you saw the Prime Minister's office said the news about a ceasefire is incorrect. What is the disconnect here? You know, we had senior U.S. officials saying last night, suggesting really strongly that they expected the two sides to agree to this proposal, and here we are however many hours later, and the Prime Minister's office is saying no.
So a couple of things, as you mentioned, the joint statement last
Biden was avoiding Eric Adams like an ex. Yeah, he's not going to comment on any of that corruption. What nations is Biden bringing together? Even Europe is tired of giving money. Yeah. Nothing. No nations at all. None at all. Unfortunately, we're just handing over large amounts of money. That's what we do.
night. You saw that. We and our allies, partners, don't believe in an all-out war. That's not the answer here. That's not what we want to see. And that is something that we've been pretty consistent about throughout the past several months. Our joint statement was a clear call. It was a call for a temporary ceasefire to open up space for diplomacy to achieve a deal that allows civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes safely and securely. And I would add that the statement was indeed coordinated with the Israeli side. There are now discussions ongoing today in New York. Our teams are continuing to have discussions, and so you'll probably hear more later in the day, but those discussions are ongoing.
If it was coordinated with the Israeli side and the expectation last night, as it was shared by senior U.S. officials, was that the two sides would agree to this imminently, why are we hearing from the Prime Minister's office today?
I would have to refer you to the Prime Minister's office.
Refer you to someone else. So the Guardian actually has a pretty good article about that Eric's Adam guy. It says as of 8 minutes ago, unsealed indictment shows charges against Eric Adams include wire fraud, bribery, and soliciting illegal foreign donations. Spicy. Very, very spicy. They're calling it a grave breach of public trust as the mayor remains defiant. So he doesn't want to step down. He really is keeping this going.
I'm just laying out the facts and what we know and what we want to avoid. We do not believe an all-out war is the answer. And we've been very clear about that. The president's been very clear about that. I just laid out the facts and what we're trying to do. This is a clear call for a temporary ceasefire. We want to provide space. We talk about how diplomacy is the way to move forward. That's what the president believes. I laid out that the statement was indeed coordinated with the Israeli side. I can't speak for them. They will have to speak for themselves. I'm just laying out what we know, how this came together, and what our end goal is, right? Is what we want to see.
Do you still expect an agreement to come out imminently?
As I just mentioned, we have our teams who are in New York right now. They're currently having those discussions, currently negotiating or discussing this further in New York, and so I'm sure that we will have more to share later in the day. Okay, Francesca.
The president never had a direct conversation with the Israeli prime minister about this. Do you expect that he'll call him today or that he'll speak with him tomorrow about this?
As you know, they've spoken many times, probably more than a dozen times easily in this past several months, almost a year now, since October 7th. They have decades-long relationship, and so they know each other very well. And when they have discussions, they are very honest and frank. I don't have a conversation to read out, a call to preview at this time. As I stated, and I've said this before, we have said this before, our teams talk pretty regularly, practically on a daily basis.
All right. I think Eric Adams' brother was even going through the local business offering protection services. This shit's shady, man. But even on this article, it says in a 5-count criminal indictment, U.S. prosecutors allege that before and during his terms as mayor, Adams accepted improper valuable benefits such as luxury international travel, including from wealthy foreign business people and at least one Turkish government official seeking to gain influence over him. So he's working with the Turkish people. That's a good way to lose your clearance. But he probably still has his clearance. We have old boy yesterday who was at the committee there who lost his clearance for supporting Trump. But apparently this guy's good to go. He doesn't have to step down. He can keep his clearance even though he has foreign ties. This country, brother.
And so that certainly continues as we're talking about this ceasefire, the statement that you saw from the G7 plus our key Middle East partners overnight.
So essentially, he did not feel that he needed to talk directly with the prime minister because his team was talking to.
I mean, their teams talk regularly, as they're doing right now in New York today, and so that is something that will continue to be the case. But they have spoken multiple times. As a conversation between the prime minister and the president, I just don't have anything to preview at this time.
Sure. Ukraine. His approval today of the long-range bombs, should we take that as a sign that he is more open to allowing Ukraine to strike deeper into Russian territory?
Look, our policy has not changed. They're going to talk on a range of issues today. What we can say and what we can commit to is that we will continue to support Ukraine as they continue their fight against Mr. Putin's aggression into Ukraine. And so that is our commitment. That's what the president's focused on. I don't have anything else to add. Okay.
On the long-range missile issue, does the White House have a reaction to Putin's comments that would invite a nuclear response?
Here's what. Look, we say this all the time. Mr. Putin can end this war today. He can. He started this war. He started this war, not the Ukrainians. He started this war. It could end today. It could end today if he decides to stop the aggression that he started into Ukraine. And so we've been very clear about that, and we'll continue to do so.
And there's been no change on the administration's policy on NATO membership for Ukraine since the NATO summit?
I don't have anything else to share beyond what we've been pretty clear on as it relates to
And
that.
one more is, was there any reaction to former President Trump's comments that Ukraine cities are gone, questioning giving more aid to the country while they refuse to make a deal, or this comment that he wants them to win, kind of suggesting that Zelensky wants Democrats to win the election?
Look, I'm not going to respond to everything that the former president says, especially since he's a candidate in this election. The president has been very clear to his commitment, not just him, the more than 50 nations that are supporting Ukraine in their efforts to fight for their democracy, to fight against Mr. Putin's aggression. And let's not forget, the president was able to make NATO stronger so that we can be able to continue to do the work that NATO is supposed to do. And an example is what is happening in Ukraine. And so that is his focus. That's going to be continued. What he is going to, you'll see this today in the bilat that he has with President Zelensky. You saw that this week at the UN Assembly when he met with he saw multiple leaders. Obviously, he was with multiple leaders and had a couple of opportunities, as we read out to all of you, to meet with some of them. And so this is what the president's going to focus on, and that's what I'm going to speak to. Okay.
Thank you, Corinne. On the
Zelensky can end the war as well. By how? By giving up their territory? And Putin would rampage if Ukraine joins NATO. I think that it feels like that is the ultimate goal for these people, to get Ukraine to join NATO. But we know Putin's gonna go crazy when that happens.
Zelensky meeting, why is it that President Biden and Vice President Harris are holding these meetings separately? Is it the suggestion that one would say something different than the other, and that there might be some dueling diplomacy there?
There's no dueling diplomacy. It's not unusual. The vice president has met with President Zelensky separately many times. Nothing new here.
Okay.
I wouldn't read too much into it.
And then critics have said that Zelensky's trip to Pennsylvania was a political stunt. Did the administration communicate at all with Ukraine on who would be attending that trip, or make any effort to make it a bipartisan event?
So let me just lay this down, because I know that there's been a lot of talk about this. So the Ukrainians asked to visit the facility, which employs American workers, as you know, who are manufacturing critical supplies that the Ukrainian military is using every day on the front lines of freedom. Because of its centrality to their country's continued existence.
They gave her a script to read to answer this question.
This came from Ukrainian, not us. This is something that they wanted to do. After they made that request, DoD did what it has done for years, figure out how to provide transportation for foreign leaders traveling on U.S. soil, which is common, which happens when they come to the U.S. And the whole world knows this is someone Putin wants dead. He's made very clear when it comes to President Zelensky. Also, just 2 months ago, President Zelensky traveled to Utah and held an event with the Republican governor, a very similar event, and Republican officials were there at that event in Utah, and there wasn't a single demand, not one single demand for an investigation when that occurred a couple months ago in Utah. So this was business as usual for a Ukrainian request during wartime. And so we would encourage the House Republicans to drop this. This is a political stunt. They need to drop this. And anything else, I think I gave a lot here, a lot of good layout of how this all occurred, but anything else specific, I would certainly refer you to the DoD.
Just clarifying, though, that the administration didn't, or the campaign, I guess, didn't play a role in determining the guest list, because they're claiming that having no Republicans there in a battleground state made it effectively a campaign event.
This is something that
And him endorsing Kamala.
Ukrainians asked for. They did this a couple months ago in Utah with a Republican governor, and Republican elected officials were there as well. We didn't hear any type of investigation request when we went to a Republican state. We didn't.
On the gun event today, what kind of gun does the Vice President have, and when did she
2005?
That's something for her office to speak to.
The reason I'm asking is because you have this event today, but the VP, as district attorney, sponsored Proposition H in 2005. It would have banned handguns within San Francisco city limits and required that residents turn in the handguns that they already own by a certain deadline or face mandatory jail time. But she's out on the campaign trail now saying,
Got him right there. I'm not going to ban your guns, but yet I have a history of trying to ban your guns.
that she's a proud gun owner and is not going to take away your guns. So can the White House get us an answer on that? Because she hasn't, and her campaign officials also haven't answered that question, even on television.
Look, a couple of things here. When it comes to the VP and owning a gun, she can speak for herself. The campaign could speak for that. Her office can speak for that. I'm not. That's for them to speak to. It is not there's no conflict here when we're saying that we want to see responsible gun ownership. That's what
by banning handguns. She's not even talking about ARs anymore in this conversation. We're talking about banning handguns. So any way you look at that, that's banning guns. Our governor flip-flops more than Kamala. That's terrible if that's true.
we want to see. Responsible gun ownership. I think that is what's important here. At the end of the day, gun violence is an epidemic in our country.
Banning handguns is not being responsible as a gun owner. That's literally just taking guns away. That's all it is. There's no responsibility in not having a gun.
Think about our schools, our grocery stores. It's an epidemic. We have done the work. We have seen violent crimes go down because of the work that this president and this vice president has done. There's an office to prevent gun violence, and that is something that she leads. But we're asking for responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see. That's what's important here. And if people don't understand that, I don't know how to further even explain that to them. Our kids, our schools, there's an epidemic here.
What's going on, Ahmet? How's your day going?
There's an epidemic. There are drills happening in our schools right now. That's something that the president's going to speak to. That is traumatizing some of our kids because of this epidemic. And so that should be the focus. How do we make sure that we end this epidemic? We want to see responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see.
I think the question is not about responsible gun ownership, though. It's about, her past position saying that it's supporting a measure that would have required that non-law enforcement or military residents of a city turn in their handguns, so no gun ownership.
Yes, grill her. That's exactly what you were saying, and she's not answering the question. She's saying ban handguns. That was Kamala's policy. It's not being a responsible gun owner. I need to have a safe in my house, make sure my kids can't get them, make sure we have proper access to mental treatment for our kids so they don't go shoot up the school. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about taking the guns away. You can't be responsible with something you don't have.
Or face possible mandatory jail time versus what she's saying now. And then also not answering the question of her gun ownership.
Again, that's something that she's going to have to speak to. What I can speak to this moment and this time, what we've been trying to do for the last 3.5 years is make sure that we are dealing with an epidemic that is existing in our communities, that we see in our schools, that we see in grocery.
I'm going to continue to not answer the question. Guys, I'm super responsible with my Lamborghini that I don't have. I am the most responsible. How are you? I'm doing just wonderful. I can see the benefit of red flag laws, but there are too many Karens and extreme lefties to make it a valid option. Look at everyone who was reported for not wearing a mask. Exactly. It's a slippery slope. You can't trust these people. They're literally campaigning saying that people who think that they're going to take away the guns are crazy conspiracy theorists. Meanwhile, she's literally has a bill from 2005 talking about taking away handguns. That's literally a position that she held. And when she's talking about being a responsible gun owner, we know what that means. It means she's going to ban your ARs. That's the first step for what she wants to do, and it's just going to go downhill from there.
Stores, it is an epidemic here. And what we're trying
And for her to try to take the angle, oh, it's because you don't care about children in schools, is fucking gross. You are disgusting, lady.
to do is prevent gun violence, and we have seen that go down. We have, because of this work, because of the executive actions, because of a bipartisan legislation that was able to be done under this administration to deal with gun violence, something that we hadn't seen in 30 years. So there is some bipartisan support here to deal with a responsible way of having gun ownership. We need to do more here. We need to do more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Corinne. Back on the long-range missiles into Russia, our latest reporting is that President Biden has not changed his position on this, in part because the Pentagon has assessed it would do very little to change the trajectory of the war. So does the president plan to be blunt with Zelensky about that assessment today and to give him a yes or no answer, at least as far as it stands today?
So, again, I'm not expecting any new announcements. That is something that I'm going to be clear about. What our focus...
If they do announce that today, that's going to be huge. Russia has already said that nuclear war is on the table if we start doing this.
Here is that we are focused on ensuring that Ukraine has what it needs to prevail in this war. That is the president's focus. That's what they're going to continue to discuss about. That's what they're going to, the president's going to continue to support Ukraine on, not just us, the 50 plus countries that the president was able to get together to support Ukraine, making NATO stronger. I'm not going to get into any reporting about this. I've been very clear, and you're going to see both presidents momentarily in the bilat. You'll hear directly from the president, and so I'll just leave it there.
Okay, and then following up again on the ceasefire deal in Lebanon, you said that the statement was coordinated with Israel. Are you saying that the U.S. has any reason to believe that despite what we are seeing and despite the public comments, Israel agrees with the U.S.?
What I'm saying is that their discussions continue in New York. I laid out the facts as they are, and wanted to be very clear about that. Let me just read out a couple of things from the joint statement that you all saw from the G7 plus key partners, Middle East partners. The situation between Lebanon and Israel since October 8th, 2023 is intolerable and presents an unacceptable risk of a broader regional escalation. This is in nobody's interest, neither of the people of Israel nor of the people of Lebanon. It is time to conclude a diplomatic settlement that enables civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes in safety. Diplomacy, however, cannot succeed amid an escalation of this conflict. So we want to see a ceasefire, a 20-day ceasefire. Those discussions continue. It was something that we laid out, right? It was a plan that we laid out. And so we want to certainly see that move forward, and those discussions continue in New York with our teams.
And you've made that abundantly clear. But I guess my question is, Israel is not on the list of countries that came up with the proposal or has agreed to it.
You're right. It's a G7, the G7 plus the key Middle East partners that put forward this this joint statement last night.
So why do you have any reason to believe that they're going to agree to this?
As I stated, and you pointed this out when you asked me your question, Israel was aware of this statement. And now, what I can tell you right now, we are having continued discussions that is happening with our teams in New York. And I'm not going to get into private diplomatic engagement, but I can assure you these conversations are continuing.
Thank you.
Do you predict that Israel will do a ground invasion? God, man, I don't know. Who knows? What do you think?
Just a quick follow-up on that statement that you read. It refers to the situation as a situation, a conflict, and an escalation. Do we agree at the White House that what we're witnessing between Israel and Lebanon right now is in fact war?
I'm not going to get into semantics from here. What we know and what we are seeing is that this cannot continue, and we want this to end, right? We want a peaceful solution here. I'm just not going to get into semantics.
I guess I ask because we've heard the president say, as he said multiple times this week, that he wants to avoid a full-scale war, an all-out war. He said it remains a possibility. That's why they're pursuing this diplomatic solution. But I guess just for our understanding of what an all-out war looks like versus what we're witnessing now.
I mean, look, I'm not going to get into. Here's what we want to see. We want to see a 21-day ceasefire to give us the space to have that conversation so that we can have a negotiation to end this. That's what
90% yes. Yeah, I mean, dude, it could happen. It really could.
we want to see. And so we believe this gives us an opportunity to do this by calling for a 21-day ceasefire, to be more clear. And so it's important. It is intolerable what's happening. It cannot continue for both sides. It cannot continue. And so we're going to do everything in our power. The president has been very clear to get to that point. I think it was important. It was important to see a joint statement from the G7 and key Middle East partners. I think it was important to see that. You see countries coming together and seeing what's happening. The tensions need to stop. We need to get to a ceasefire. And so that is what we're trying to get to here. We're going to continue to have this discussion on getting to that 21-day ceasefire. That's continuing in New York, as you know. UNGA continues, right? Even though we're back here, and so our teams are there. They're having those discussions. They're doing these diplomatic conversations. You hear us talk about it all the time. Diplomatic resolution is key. And that's what we're trying to get to. And that's what I think you can see, the type of movement that you've seen from this president, right? When he was at UNGA having conversations with other leaders. And now we've come to a place where we've put this forward, and this is what we believe. If we see this 21-day ceasefire, it gives us the space. It gives us the space to have that conversation. Okay.
Thank you, Doreen. I'm going to have another go at the ceasefire.
Sure.
So, the White House said that they don't want to see a wider war, and you wanted to see this 21-day ceasefire. But yesterday, a senior administration official described this proposal as a breakthrough. So
a breakthrough.
Yeah. So what makes you believe that just the parties is listening to you when they did not listen to you over maybe 10 months, and the White House failed to secure a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas? The party changes now is Israel and Hezbollah as opposed to Israel and Hamas. Mm-hmm. So where do you get this optimism when the president always say we are 2 days away from securing the ceasefire, we're 3 days away, until now you're unable to secure a ceasefire and release U.S. hostages? So where is this optimism coming that both Hezbollah and Israel can listen to the White House?
These people don't want a ceasefire. Let's be honest. Their ceasefire keeps shrinking in days. It was a 60-day, then a 6-week, now a 30-week. Pretty soon they're going to brag about creating a 32-minute ceasefire. Yeah, or 10 minutes. There was no killing for 10 minutes, guys. Vote for us right now. Let's see what kind of response she has, if she gives any good information.
So here's the thing. As I stated, our teams have been in discussion. The president certainly has been engaging our teams in particular with Israel and Lebanon throughout this week. And based on those conversations, right, we have had with Israel and Lebanon, and we have had with our partners as well, we felt comfortable in releasing this statement because of those ongoing dialogue, that diplomatic conversation, resolution that we're trying to get to, calling for a ceasefire. And it is up to the parties to respond. I mean, it is up to the parties to respond. But we felt comfortable in releasing that statement last night because we have been having those discussions with Lebanon and Israel. But to your point, it is up to the parties to respond. Now, we put out the statement, the joint statement last night. Conversations continue, discussions continue in New York. And so we're going to continue to move that way. But we have to do something, right? We have to continue to act. And diplomacy is the way to deal with what we have been seeing. Right?
Does the White House have leverage over either party so we don't go to a wider war?
We're trying to prevent a wider war. That is what we've been working towards for some time. And we have had these discussions with both Israel, with Lebanon, with our partners, and we felt comfortable enough to release this statement. We believe that diplomatic resolution is key here.
This is a legit question. Is KJP colorblind? She really can't leave her place thinking her outfit colors look good. I don't know what her plan is with her outfits. This one isn't as bad as the clown suit that she had last week. I'll give her, like, this one looks decent. It's very bright. I'll give you that. It's pretty crazy. But that orange suit last week, that thing was just atrocious. I don't know what she was thinking with that one.
And we can't stop. We got to continue to try, right? But it is up to our partners to respond. It truly is. But just because we release the statement, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't. So we're going to have diplomatic discussions as it's happening in New York.
She's giving me Joker vibes.
It doesn't stop from last night releasing this joint statement, and we'll see where we get. We'll see where we get to.
Question: the number the people who have been killed in Lebanon is over 600 now, 2,000 wounded. Do you believe that these are legitimate target, including the number of the dead, also women and children? And do you believe that Israel still operate within international law?
Here's what I can say. We want to see the tensions end. We want to see a ceasefire. That is what it is not, it's what we're seeing right now, and this is in our statement. It is intolerable what's going on right now. It cannot continue, and it's not good for either side. It is just not. This is why we're trying to get to a diplomatic solution here. And you mentioned children and women. Nobody wants to see that. We don't want to see that. And so we're trying to get to a diplomatic solution. That's why we called for...
If you're sponsoring someone and they don't win in 2 to 3 years, you drop the sponsorship, quit throwing money at it. We need to stop sponsoring countries. So part of me thinks the reason why we're actually sponsoring these countries is so we can test our new weapons of war and to develop our own military in the process. Think about like Starlink. Nobody had really tested that in a way of using it for war until this war here. And now we've kind of seen the capabilities, the things that it can do. I know they're out there like testing just different weapons in general, and it's making our military better. So it's better if we're looking at it as an investment into making us more lethal, I guess, just to try to get something good out of this instead of just thinking that we're throwing money into it.
You know, we laid out a path, a call for a 21-day ceasefire, and that's why we're continuing to have these diplomatic solutions, right? Diplomatic conversations. We have to do this. We have to. That is the way out of this. And I know we have to wrap pretty soon. Go ahead, Garen.
She's running.
In response to a criminal complaint filed against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana, in a social media post, described Haitians as, quote, gangsters, and Haiti as, quote, the nastiest country in the Western Hemisphere. He has since deleted that post. CBC Chairman Stephen Horsford tried to censure him in the House yesterday. Was blocked by Republicans. But what is the White House's reaction to Higgins' post and the failed effort to hold him accountable?
Look, I'm not going to speak to House actions and how they go about their business. That is for them to decide how they're going to deal with individual congressional members. What I will say more broadly, and we have been very clear from here, the president has been clear, the vice president has been clear. I think what we are seeing right now, what we have heard from national leaders about what is going on in Springfield, Ohio, the baseless lies and conspiracy theories, it's dangerous. And it is.
She's getting mad again. She flipped to that question, your favorite question. She's about to get furious. I'm surprised no one asked about Paul Pelosi cashing out Visa stock before they government sued Visa. Oh, really? I didn't know that either. I'm not really following his portfolio to know that, but interesting, because there's always something going on with the Pelosi's, how they suddenly have insider information and are making these trades and making all this money.
It's false. And to go after immigrants in that way, who are there legally, helping a community economically, who are welcomed in that community, and saying these baseless lies, is dangerous. And so what this president and this vice president believes is that we cannot pull apart our communities. They want to bring together our communities. That is what you have been seeing over the last 3.5 years. And conspiracy theories like...
She's about to get pissed again, but yeah. Let me pull up this article here, because I didn't hear about this new one. It says, oh, of course they're going to hit me with the ad. Continue without supporting. Quit being annoying. Nancy Pelosi's husband sold more than $500K worth of Visa stock just weeks before DOJ's antitrust lawsuit. How's this not being investigated at all? We have it here. It's in the media. People know about it. Let's see. Visa was hit with a lawsuit on Tuesday that alleged the company was has illegally monopolized the debit card market. The culmination of a year-long review conducted by the Justice Department's antitrust unit. Okay. But nothing about them looking into Pelosi? The disclosure form shows that Pelosi's transactions mark SP or spouse, a reference to husband Paul. Okay. Look at this. Yeah, they have a Nancy Pelosi stock trader. I'm sure that's after the fact. Man, if we could know up to date like what her trades were, like by the minute, we would be rich. We'd be making so much money if we could do that. He sold back about $500K worth of stock. Yeah, that's insane. How can we find a way to monitor his trades and get that like up-to-date information so we can get rich? That's what we need. But yeah, there's nothing about them looking into this. Like, obviously, this is not the first time this has happened. Yeah, they just don't care. It's like, whatever. No one cares. Business as usual. No big deal.
This are harmful, and we have seen this already, how dangerous this is. How dangerous this is to go after, in this particular instance, Haitian migrants who were welcomed in that community. And it has not just been denounced from us, denounced from the governor of Ohio, denounced by the police department, local police department, the city manager of Springfield. I mean, on and on, by Republicans who have denounced this. And so it's unfortunate that we have national leaders who are playing political stunts and political games. And so that is what we're going to continue to speak to. We are about bringing our communities together, not tearing them apart.
Just one more question.
Sure.
Death row inmate Marcellus Williams was executed in Missouri on Tuesday despite concerns about evidence and jury selection process in his 1998 case. Despite the St. Louis County prosecutor and the victim's family requesting that he live, Missouri's governor, attorney general, and the Supreme Court ultimately failed to intervene. Considering this and the president's stance against the death penalty, what does he personally think of Williams' execution?
Isn't this about the guy who stabbed a lady like 20 times? And people are trying to paint this as racism?
So obviously I can't speak to this case specifically. I can't do that from here. But the president has long talked about his serious concerns about the death penalty as currently implemented and whether it is consistent with the values fundamental to our sense of justice and fairness. He supports the Attorney General's decision to issue a moratorium on federal executions while the Department of Justice conducts a comprehensive review of policies and procedures governing the federal death penalty. And so I'll leave it there. I know I gotta go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Corinne. Just to follow up
Didn't he admit it? Well, I don't know. Let me see.
again on the Lebanon, is the administration meeting at all with Prime Minister Netanyahu while he's in the U.S.?
I don't have any meetings to preview, but I can tell you, as I've said multiple times, our teams in New York are meeting, and so I will just leave it there. And they're in regular.
Dude, you are right. You are nailing this again. This is from CNN, so you know it's not going to be racially biased, of course, and they're even saying it. It says, Williams confessed to his girlfriend and an inmate in the St. Louis City Jail, and Williams' girlfriend saw him dispose of the body, or bloody clothes, rather, bloody clothes worn during the murder. So it's not even up in the air if he did it or not. It's straight up, this guy murdered a woman, and we're fighting. Okay, I can see, like, you could argue for or against the death penalty, but all of the articles that I've seen, they're trying to paint this as a racial issue. I think one of the main ones that I saw is they were trying to say that the government lynched him. An old-fashioned style lynching. Like, where are we going with this? Like, this guy is a murderer. Do we really care that much? It's plain as day. He admitted it. There's witnesses. Who cares about this guy? Who gives a fuck?
Conversation as it relates to the Israeli government. Our teams here are in regular conversations on a practically daily basis, and so the teams are in New York having meetings about this particular ceasefire call that we put forward.
You mentioned that the efforts doesn't stop with the announcement last night.
Say that one more time.
You mentioned that the diplomatic efforts
No,
does not stop.
I mean, it's happening right now in New York. Yes.
My question is, in order to make it different than, the announcement that obviously President Biden was comfortable in announcing a few months ago on the Gaza ceasefire, in order to make that different than the announcement he made last night with other leaders, would he consider conditioning aid to Israel?
I don't have anything else to lay out beyond the statement that you saw from not just us, the G7 leaders, and also key Middle East partners as well. Don't have anything beyond that. We have not changed, obviously, our position on that. We want to have a diplomatic resolution. That is what we have been saying for some time now, and this is one of the ways that we want to move forward on this.
Briefly also on
She wants to leave before she needs to answer any tough questions. Yeah, she's about to bail.
Afghanistan, the Taliban have formally sought to join the upcoming BRICS summit. What is the administration's stance on the Taliban's bid to join BRICS, and how do you assess the geopolitical implications of Taliban's growing ties with China and Russia?
So look, we'll let the Taliban speak for themselves here. But we have been very clear that we judge the Taliban by what they do, not by what they say. We've been very consistent about that. The Taliban want international legitimacy to be removed from sanctioned list and foreign financing to restart the Afghan economy. These aspirations require the Taliban to live up to their commitments. At minimum, Afghanistan cannot strengthen its economy unless women are able to participate in all aspects of society without limitations.
Okay, that's not the question that was asked. They wanted you to comment on them actually showing up to this summit. Okay. And if there's no reference to the Hatch Act or the border bill, can we still call it a press conference? She didn't mention Trump one time in this briefing. This might be the first one I've ever watched that she didn't mention Trump.
So we will continue to engage with the Taliban on matters of our interest, for example, on respect for the rights of women and girls and the return of wrongfully detained U.S. Citizens, and that's how we're going to move forward with them. All right, we gotta go. All right, thanks guys.
And there she goes. Not a lot to that one, really. Well, not a lot of questions answered, put it that way. They kept mentioning this summit. This one at 3 o'clock. Let's see. Let's see what else is going on. Paul just asked me in the comments if we should make something to set up to like have links or what news stories people want to watch. So I gave him my email, but I'm kind of thinking maybe we should set up a Discord server so people can like drop links in there. I wonder if Biden will still look lost at the summit. Well, from the title that I'm seeing here, it looks like Harris is going to be there. Biden, okay, let's see. Vice President Harris and President Zelensky are talking about Ukraine. And then Biden and Harris are going to be talking about gun control later in the day. Trump's going to be speaking in New York. I wonder if he comments on the mayor. New Twitter outrage. Apparently, Elon Musk is letting Putin use Starlink to operate drones. No shit. No way. Holy shit. What's his reasoning behind that? I'm not seeing it on my feed. Let me go to Elon's profile, see if I can find something. Not sure if it's real or just propaganda. Yeah, that would be a crazy change in the war. He's usually pretty open on his X, and I'm not seeing anything from today. Yeah, I don't see it. I'm gonna try and watch this Kamala interview.
Madam Vice President.
People were saying that she gets crazy in it. So let's see. It's short too. She only did a 24-minute interview. That's like what, 3 questions? If she answers them. All right, here is MSNBC's latest interview with Kamala Harris. It is the latest interview that she has done. I'm hoping they're actually going to press her with some real questions, and I'm hoping that she's also going to be equipped to answer those questions and give us a lot of details about her policies and what she's actually going to do going forward.
You just laid out your economic vision for the future. Yeah. But still, there are lots of Americans who don't see themselves in your plans. For those who say these policies aren't for me, what do you say to them?
Well, if you are hardworking,
Drink if she says I came from a middle-class family. It's coming. It's coming.
if you have the dreams and the ambitions and the aspirations of what I believe you do, you're in my plan. You know, I have to tell you, I really love and am so energized by what I know to be the spirit and character of the American people. We have ambition. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We can see what's possible. We have an incredible work ethic.
I can already tell you this is going to be a what is your favorite kind of ice cream kind of interview.
But not everyone has the access to the opportunities that allow them to achieve those things. But we don't lack for those things. But not everyone, you know, gets handed stuff on a silver platter. And so my vision for the economy, I call it an opportunity economy, is about making sure that all Americans, wherever they start, wherever they are, have the ability to actually achieve those dreams and those ambitions, which include, for middle-class families, just being able to know that their hard work allows them to get ahead, right? I think we can't and we shouldn't aspire to have an economy that just allows people to get by. People want to do more than just get by. They want to get ahead. And I come from the middle class. Look, my mother...
There it is. There you go. We're up to like, what, 2 shots right now?
Raised my sister and me. She worked hard. She saved up. By the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. And, home ownership for too many people in our country now is elusive. Gone is the day of everyone thinking they could actually live the American dream. So part of my vision for the economy is let's deal with some of the everyday challenges that people face and address them with common sense solutions, such as affordable housing.
Over the last 4 years, there have been tremendous economic wins, and you've just laid out a big plan. But still, polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts. Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression when you look at, for example, the employment numbers.
It was during COVID, and employment was so high.
Okay, all right, she's actually pushing back. I'm surprised. Holy shit. Finally.
We shut down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs by most people's estimates, at least 200,000. He lost manufacturing plants, ask the auto workers.
She was too quick to respond to that. This is staged.
How he lost auto plants. We have grown over 20 new auto plants. He has an agenda. Let's just deal with right now going forward, not to mention what happened in the past. He has an agenda that would include making it more difficult for workers to earn overtime, an agenda that would include cutting off access to small business loans for small businesses, an agenda that includes tariffs to the point that the...
Actually, just to be fair, Donald Trump's agenda is to remove tax on overtime. That's his plan, not to remove overtime.
Average working person will spend 20% more on everyday necessities and an estimated $4,000 more a year on those everyday necessities, to the point that top economists in our country, from Nobel laureates to people at Moody's and Goldman Sachs, have compared my plan with his and said my plan would grow the economy, his would shrink the economy. Some of them have actually assessed that his plan would increase inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. So the facts remain that Donald Trump has a history of taking care of very rich people.
Thanks for the sub.
And I'm not mad at anybody for being rich, but they should pay their fair share. But tax cuts for the billionaires and the top corporations in our country, and then not really paying much attention to middle-class families. My perspective on the economy is when you grow the middle class, America's economy is stronger. And there's empirical evidence to prove my point correct.
Then let me ask you about taxes, because lots of people will say, I don't like...
5 minutes in and she's already lying. Yeah, I was really hoping that she wouldn't play the Donald Trump game in this one. I want the reporter to go into her policies and fight some of the critics of her policies, the economics people that actually say that this is bad policy, like the price controls and all of the other bullshit, the unrealized gains, all of this stuff, instead of deflecting to Donald Trump's plan. I want her to talk about her plan. But I don't know, if I'm kind of back and forth on this journalist to see if she's actually going to do that,
Donald Trump, but he cut my taxes. He didn't just cut corporate taxes, he cut individual taxes. Now that expires next year, and there's some people confused saying, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people in blue states, are you going to lift that cap?
So first...
No, everybody's going to pay more in taxes. With all of these handouts that she wants to do, like the $25,000 in first homebuyer credit, all of the other things that she wants to do, everybody's going to pay more in taxes. She has to pay for it somehow. This isn't magic money. And if she isn't going to raise taxes, she's going to print more money, which is just going to cause more inflation.
First of all, when it relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up. Your taxes will not go up. And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including $6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life in a tax cut, a tax credit, essentially, by expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they're going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat. And we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
And expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Good question. Very good question. Props to her.
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes.
Oh, what is this? Just because you want to do something doesn't mean it's going to happen. You need a backup plan, lady.
And we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it.
Maybe she's following Biden's let's just print more money tax credits. I mean, that's the only other option. If she can't get more tax revenue, the only thing that she can do is force Jerome Powell at the Fed to print more money, which just causes more inflation, doesn't help people. But she can claim it as a win. Even this reporter is done with her shit. Yeah, exactly. And she doesn't have an answer. She's like, oh, but that's not even plausible. Of course we're going to raise taxes on these evil corporations. And I can tell you exactly, even if she's able to raise taxes on these companies, they're going to flee the U.S. These companies, they don't have to be here. They don't. They can easily move, and they will move. They're going to go to the most affordable place for them to be so they can prosper in their business. That's their plan. That's exactly what's going to happen.
It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more. But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Good.
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
And they bring down their costs by leaving America. That's how you have a profitable business. That's how it's going to go.
Part of my plan for the economy is investing in new industries in a way that we have active partnership with the private sector. I've worked with the private sector my entire career. Even as vice president, working with some of the biggest banks and biggest tech companies to increase by billions of dollars the money going into community banks.
She's trying to paint these corporations like they're actually good people, and then she's trying to pretend like she has a partnership with these people and she talks to them all the time. Realistically, when you work for these corporations, they don't care about you at all. Their form of caring for you is giving you a little pizza party maybe once a year. That's something that she's never dealt with because they don't want to give you a raise. They don't want to help you with your health insurance. They don't want to give you any more money to help you live. So she's trying to say, oh, no, they're actually good people. No, you've never worked for these people. You don't have no idea. You've never walked into a stupid pizza party and that was your thank you for grinding your life away at this job. Try to tell me that they're not going to leave this country. They're all going to stick around and pay their fair share. That's some bullshit.
Banks to increase access to capital for small businesses. Why do those biggest corporations and CEOs do that? Because they know those kinds of investments, like in our small businesses, in startups and entrepreneurs, actually strengthens America's economy overall and everyone benefits. So this is not about bilking anybody, but it is certainly about saying, let's make sure that we create opportunities for everyone to grow wealth. I believe that it is not sufficient and it should not be our goal to just make sure everyone is working. That should be the baseline. That should be a given. And let's create an economy where people have the ability to buy a home, to start a business, to take a nice vacation from time to time, right?
For people who want to buy a home, yes, getting a $25,000 kicker would be great. But it's not just affording a home. We don't have enough in this country.
You're absolutely right.
And one of the main problems are regulations and rules, strict rules at a local level. How does the federal government cut through all that red tape and get down to, the suburbs of Pittsburgh and say, we're going to have to build some affordable housing here? How do you connect the two?
So you're absolutely right. So across our country, people rightly are concerned about the cost of housing. So it's home ownership, to your point. We need more supply. That is, without any question, part of the solution. Creating more supply under my plan includes creating tax incentives to work with the private sector and home builders. Part of my goal and the plan would be to create 3 million new housing units for rent and for ownership by the end of my first term. It includes also what we must
And the corporations are suddenly going to pay for that too as well.
Do to cut red tape. You're absolutely right. It takes far too long and there's too much bureaucracy associated with home building. And I say that as a devout public servant. I know that we have to reduce the red tape and speed up what we need to do around building. And that is going to require working from the federal level with state and local governments. And it's going to be different in different places, depending on the needs of that community, the needs of that local government, that municipality, but working in consultation and coordination and also around incentives that we can create. For example, some of the work is going to be through what we do in terms of giving benefits and assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing for working people.
Then let me ask you a business that matters a lot to this town.
Yeah.
U.S. Steel.
Yes.
Right? When you think Pennsylvania, when you think Pittsburgh, you got the Liberty Bell in Philly, and you got U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
A Japanese company wants to buy them. You are opposed to this idea. Many people are. But if the deal doesn't go through, they have said people could lose jobs, they could close mills, they could leave the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, that is like moving the Liberty Bell to Newark. So which is more important?
It's most important that we maintain America's ability to have American manufacturing of steel by American workers for a number of reasons, which includes, again, back to the point of growing our economy and how I think about the economy overall.
I agree with her there. We shouldn't leave. We shouldn't let this company leave. Did she resolve wars and world hunger yet? No, she did not, unfortunately. She's working on it, though. She's giving it the old college try.
Investing in new industries. There is not a new industry that I can imagine that is not going to require steel as a manufacturing of steel as a fundamental part of what it accomplishes. And having American workers in an American company manufacturing that steel for those new industries is going to be critically important, not only in terms of our economy, but also in the context of national security. Most people now realize if we didn't before the pandemic and the strain on supply chains and an over-reliance on foreign manufacturing, that we have to be intentional about U.S.-based manufacturing. And of the products that we have to prioritize, steel is one of them. And that's always going to be my priority.
Steel workers matter in this country. Unions matter.
Yes.
In 2016, Donald Trump connected with unions. He saw them. There was an emotional connection. But what he didn't do was deliver policy. In the last 4 years, we have seen huge wins in this country for unions. But not all unions have gotten behind you. I want to understand, when the Teamsters decided not to endorse you, what was their reasoning? What are they looking for?
Well, let me go back to our just previous conversation. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the steelworkers and almost every other major union in America, because I stand by workers and I stand by the importance of being able to join a union and to understand the benefit and the value of unions. And I understand the importance of investing in new industries and working actively with the private sector to grow our economy.
But I'm asking because there's this idea, we want something more from her. What is it?
Well, here's the thing, that back to your point about previous election cycles, Donald Trump made a whole lot of promises that he did not meet. and one would argue broke. Look at Lordstown. He said he was going to...
Don't sell your homes.
Yeah, don't sell your homes. And what happened? It shut down. Outsourcing under Donald Trump. His policies that are about putting, tens to hundreds of % tariffs.
John Deere.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So part of the challenge, and I don't disagree that it's a challenge, got to earn the vote of everybody, is reminding people of fact, regardless of what somebody says in a small rally somewhere. And I think that's really important. And that's
U.S. Steel is what's going to happen by increasing corporate tax rates. CEO will just sell. Yeah, it's weird that she can't see that. She's going to raise their taxes when these companies are already trying to bail on us. And she thinks that they're going to stay. And for what? Because they believe in the good of America? That's what I was saying before. These corporations, she's not actually in a partnership with them. She's never worked for a company like this. She doesn't understand what it's like to come into a job, work your ass off, and they give you a pizza party. And they don't give you a raise. You're struggling. You can barely get by. She doesn't get it. She really doesn't. She thinks they're going to stay because they love the good old US of A. These corporations, they don't give a shit. They're probably telling her that because they want to get political favor. They want to influence her. All of these major companies are donating, I'm assuming, so they get influence over her. But it's like she doesn't see that. She doesn't understand that these policies, for one, are going to be hard to pass. It's not like she can just wave a wand and now we're going to tax them more. It's not that easy.
That's part of what I'm doing in this campaign, is to remind people, just like here in Pittsburgh, of the reality of who has stood with union labor, who stands for American manufacturing, who stands for American jobs.
Can I ask you about tariffs? Because you just mentioned it. It's not just with one company. Donald Trump's sort of big idea is this broad-based tariffs across the board. You and many others have said that would be not only disastrous, but it would be a direct tax on the American consumer.
It would be a sales tax on the American people. The independent economists have already measured this by the sales tax of doing.
What is she doing? She can't talk. Get it out.
A 20% tariffs on all imports that he has described would be a 20% sales tax, in essence, on basic necessities for the average American worker, average American family, totaling almost $4,000 a year. That is no small matter. Here in Pittsburgh, when I'm talking to a group of folks who work here, who live here, and when they hear it might be $4,000 more a year for them, look, people can't afford that.
But tariffs aren't unique to President Trump. President Biden has tariffs in place. He's actually looking to potentially implement more. Where do you come out on? Is there a good tariff, a bad tariff?
Well, part of it is you don't just throw around the idea of just tariffs across the board, and that's part of the problem with Donald Trump. Frankly, and I say this in all sincerity, he's just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues. And one must be serious and have a plan, and a real plan that's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation at a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on the investment, what will be the economic impact on everyday people. And when you look at my plans, you will see what those benefits will be. $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. You know what?
And then the home prices go up $25,000, and it ends up not helping anyone.
That means then you're creating the ability of that working person to build intergenerational wealth. Doing the work of a $6,000 child tax credit, doing the work of a $50,000.
If you can't afford a down payment on a house, you can't afford a house. I don't know what she's not seeing here. That's not the issue. I kind of respect this reporter. Yeah, at least she's actually trying. We give it to her. She's respectful. She's not aggressive and, douchey with her. But, she's still asking some good questions. I like it.
Tax deduction for first-time small businesses, startups, because right now...
That's a real plan.
It's a real plan, because right now, and again, it's about paying attention to the detail and being serious about it. I'm serious about, my enthusiasm and my for small businesses and my belief in what they will do as part of America's economic engine.
On Friday, sorry.
No, so looking at the fact that right now the tax deduction is $5,000, nobody in this year of our Lord 2024 can start a small business with $5,000. Very few can. So extending it to $50,000 tax deduction for startups to generate the innovation and the ambition of the ideas that are present and among us, but need the fuel to be able to actually achieve the goal.
Will it build wealth, though? If you buy a house and can't sell it because you can't afford a new house, is that wealth? The issue is they're going to put people into homes that can't afford them, and then they're going to default on the loans. That's what I'm seeing. We're pretty much, you're giving them the assistance to get into the home, but they probably can't pay for the home. And that's not even talking about all the maintenance that they're going to have to do on the home. That's where I see it going. And then on top of that, the home prices are going to increase, and then nobody can get into a home.
His plan is not serious when you lay it out like that, but a serious problem over the last few years has been inflation. Luckily, it's cooling, but prices are still high.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You've said you want to take this on by going after those who engage in price gouging.
Yeah.
But as somebody who supports free markets, who's a capitalist, how do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Because once we get in this zone, people start to get worried and they say, I don't know what she stands for.
Did she flip on this already? Because last I knew, she was still for price controls. I know she took a lot of heat when she came out and she announced that, realizing that it was a really dumb policy to want to do. So I wonder if she's flipped on it already.
So just to be very frank, I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people. And
That's not the question. The question was, you want to implement price controls which cause shortages and ruin our economy. That's what you should be answering here.
as Attorney General, I saw this happen. In the midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic, we saw it. Those few companies, not the majority, not most.
This is more, I come from a middle-class family bullshit. That just answer the question. Quit printing money. That will help with the inflation. Absolutely.
But those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices, yeah, I'm going to go after them. Yes, I'm going to go after them. And that is part of a much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living, including housing, including the everyday needs of the American people.
So it's like she's not specifically saying price controls anymore because she realized how much heat she was taking from it, but she's going to spin it as an emotional angle. We're going to go after the corporations. We're going to do all this. At the same time, she's going to raise their tax rates. And then she comes back and in the interview, she says that people or these corporations are going to stay because they believe in America. It doesn't work that way. You can't have it both ways. That's not how this is going to go.
On Friday, you are going to the border. Immigration is complicated. One of the issues is an economic one. And no one is eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, and I'm glad not to be talking about that. But there are people there that are stressed, that feel that they're at capacity. Communities around the country that have legal immigration, many have said, we're at capacity. And many feel like the government has said to them, well, adapt, sit down, be quiet. This is how it is. What would a Harris administration do for those communities who've taken in many, many legal immigrants but are at capacity?
Well, first of all, we do have a broken immigration system, and it needs to be fixed. And if we take a step back, months ago, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress came together with others, proposed a border security bill. That would have put 1,500 new border agents on the border to help those hardworking border agents who are there right now working around the clock. Would have put more money into stemming the flow of fentanyl, which is killing Americans around our country and devastating communities. Would have put more resources into our ability to prosecute transnational criminal organizations, which in my career I've prosecuted. Donald Trump got word of the bill, realized it was going to fix a problem he wanted to run on, and told them to kill the bill, don't put it up for a vote. He killed a bill that would have actually been a solution because he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And that's part of what needs to be addressed. And my pledge is that when elected president, If the American people will have me, I will bring that bill back and I will sign it into law. And
I want her to name the companies jacking up the prices. I don't think they would do that because it could be a sponsor of MSNBC and they don't want to, hurt their cash flow. There's a 4-bedroom house 3 doors down from my place, 4 family, about 23 people live there. And I'm sure not all of them are legal. Yeah, Florida's the same way. Florida for sure. Like I see 7-8 cars outside of a single family home. That's just how people are living nowadays. That's just what's going on. Border bill drink. That's number 3.
And we need a comprehensive plan that includes what we need to do to fortify not only our border, but deal with the fact that we also need to create pathways for people to earn citizenship.
Then I want to just ask you about a little job and a big job.
Okay.
The first one, just a fact check. Okay. Because your opponent
there is
almost
no little
every
job.
day. Okay.
There's no such thing as a little job.
Okay, fair. Because your opponent almost every day seems to be talking about this. So I just want to ask you yes or no. At any point in your life, have you served 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, working at a McDonald's? Yes or no? That's it.
I have.
Okay. Now the other job.
But it was not a small job. Like I did the fries. I mean, yes.
Okay, for a
but
small
I did.
period of time. But then let me ask you about a big job.
But to your point, if you don't mind, before you get to the big job, there's a part of the reason I even talk about having worked at McDonald's is because there are people who work at McDonald's in our country who are trying to raise a family. I worked there as a student. I was a kid who worked there trying to raise families and pay rent on it.
Paul in the chat. Howdy, y'all. We're watching the Kamala interview. It's about over, though. Like 3 more minutes.
Yeah. And I think part of the difference between me and my opponent includes our perspective on the needs of the American people and what our responsibility then is to meet those needs.
Then to the big job. You have laid out policy in great detail.
Yeah.
But the economy is an unpredictable beast. And you are running for a job that takes extraordinary instinct and guts.
Yeah.
What's the last time you had to make a gut decision? This here is very prescribed, very controlled.
Yeah. Probably the biggest gut decision I've made most recently is to choose my running mate. Yeah. There were lots.
That was a gut decision? That's what she said? Damn. That's a cold hit.
Lots of good, incredible candidates. And ultimately that came down to a gut decision.
I know I'm out of time, but then I just want to ask you a question.
That's a surprising answer that she would say that.
Question from my gut.
Okay.
Because today we're talking about we're talking about the economy.
Yeah.
If you have a family and work at McDonald's, that's on you. I'm sorry, unless you go as manager or owner. Everyone knows McDonald's isn't a career. Yeah, I mean, people don't like to hear that, but it's true. Unless you're a manager, you're not going to be able to get by working McDonald's. People try to do it. A lot of people do. Maybe I know I worked at McDonald's actually when I was a lot younger. Before the military, I worked at McDonald's, and I can tell you a lot of felons work there. They can't get other jobs, but it's a horrible job. It really is. The pay is shit, and the conditions are terrible. The customers treat you horrible because they look down on you. It's a terrible job.
And people don't think often about reproductive rights being an economic issue, but it is. A woman's ability to plan her future, her education, her life. Today, and in the last few days, Donald Trump keeps talking about it and how in overturning Roe v. Wade, he helped women. He protected women. He says they're miserable today. They're poorer today. They're more vulnerable today.
How about a grocery store employee? Yeah, I worked, I don't think I worked at a grocery store, but I worked at Sears before they went bankrupt. So that retail kind of thing, I've done that. I've done all those shit jobs. But felons can be president now. That's no excuse to not get a job. Yeah, you're right.
Today, he said he will be the protector of women if elected. Can you respond to that?
So Donald Trump is also the person who said women should be punished for exercising a decision that they rightly should be able to make about their own body and their future. So I think we would all agree that as a result of that perspective that he has about women, he also then chose 3 members of the United States Supreme Court who did as he intended, undid the protections of Roe v. Wade, and now, in state after state, you see laws being passed that do punish women. Laws that, I mean, most recently, a heartbreaking story resulted in a young woman dying, a mother of a 6-year-old. Heart-wrenching stories. And that's for the listener, much less their family. So, look, I think the thing about Donald Trump is that, you know, I don't think the women of America need him to say he's going to protect them. The women of America need him to trust them.
Can we trust you?
Yes. Yes. I am not perfect, but I will tell you, I'm always going to put the needs of the people first.
Madam Vice President, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, there she is. They get a lot of lifers at the grocery store. Yeah, you're right. For sure. McDonald's business model has always been minimum wage. If you're at a job for 6 years and only making $8.50 an hour, you're being exploited and need to make a change for yourself. Yeah, I mean, I've always considered that like a stepping stone. And even, you know, like me working at McDonald's, I was a kid. That's about all I could get into. So that's what I got. And even as a kid, so my parents forced me to get this job at McDonald's. They did it because they wanted to give me some responsibility to learn about life. They were trying to teach me work ethic, but they didn't actually teach me the work ethic, because I would go to this job, I had a truck payment, I had insurance, and I felt like I was working my ass off at this job, spending all my time there, missing, you know, all these different functions that my friends were going to, because my parents really wanted me to work this job at McDonald's to learn work skills and all that bullshit. But that's not what I was learning. I was learning that I was spending all my time at this place and I still couldn't afford my truck. I couldn't afford the insurance on the truck, the gas and everything. And when I would look at my budget, I was spending all my money going to work at McDonald's. So it was a net zero. My time would have been better spent just not having a truck as a teenager and doing what I want. So that's the actual lesson that I learned as a kid. I've had every crappy job under the sun and a few good ones. Nothing I could call a career. Yeah, man, I've done a lot of crappy jobs too. Hotel, front desk, Sears for one. I can tell you that customers coming into retail are the worst. Black Friday, just kill me. Just kill me. I don't want to do it again. Terrible. She just looked away at that answer. Haha, she's lying about trusting her. Yeah. Got the psychologist here. There's a person I know who still works at McDonald's because they don't drug test. He's my age. And that's the decision that he made. You know, if smoking weed to you is more important, then you got to make the decision to work at McDonald's and not have any money. And maybe that's the decision they made. That's their choice, and that's okay too. Not something that I would suggest, but you know, it's their life. I know when I worked at McDonald's, there was a lot of people on drugs as well. And maybe that was the only job that they could get, because a lot of times McDonald's would put up with, you know, people being late or, you know, just not being a great employee. People need to take more accountability for themselves. We are moving further away from that every day. Yeah, I mean, it is about taking accountability. I think sometimes those people, they don't want to take the responsibility. They want to pretend that we're still in that, environment where everybody gets a job. It's harder now. You got to admit, it's very hard to get a good paying job now, and it's going to take a lot more work. People have to actually try. You're not just going to get the white picket fence now by showing up and just being, just being there. But I'm off my soapbox now. Who's next to be made fun of? I don't know. I was kind of looking into what's going on still. I've had struggles with mental health and addiction my whole life, but I've always kept trying. And see, that's what counts. You have to keep trying, and it's hard, man. I could see people that have, especially mental health issues. It's hard, man. I see it in a lot of veterans who have PTSD, and it's sad. It really is, because they try. They give it the old college try, but man, it's hard. When you have like crippling depression, you can't get up off the couch, and they're still doing their damnness just to try, man. It's rough. Paul, but you are still pushing through. I applaud you. Yeah, that's it. It's hard. Oh, what else is going on? So Harris is supposed to be meeting with Zelensky at 3 o'clock, but that's like 15 minutes away, and they're probably gonna be late. So what else? So far, I'm not seeing anything with this hurricane. I don't hear any crazy rain or nothing really going on. Let's see. Yep, Trump is going to be speaking in New York. NATO leader. Keep hitting send on accident. Oh, you're good, dude. Don't worry about it. Hey, Cloudy, what's going on? Do we tax Zelensky on his payments from us like we do Social Security? No, they willy-nilly just throw money at him. They just write the check. It's less have a track record, or no, have a track and more. What? It's less have a track and more all the equipment that they have to spend to upkeep that. They just send Z. You saying that they don't really track? Yeah, there's not like a firm track record of how this money's being spent. Paul, if you ever need someone to talk to, you can reach out anytime. You have support for Paul in the chat. Congress was grilling DeJoy earlier. Let me see what's going on with that. A lot of the equipment is old equipment. Let's see what this is. Who's DeJoy? General Lewis. I have no idea who this is. We'll just
Recognize
check it
for your
out.
questions.
Thank you, Chairman Peters. And I'm going to quote you, IG Hull. Every location has a story. You just said that. So I'm going to talk about the story of Reno, Nevada, Northern Nevada, Mr. DeJoy. I'm extremely concerned about your proposal to downsize the only postal processing and distribution center in Northern Nevada, one of only 2 in my entire state. Your proposed plan includes transferring mail processing operations from Reno out of state to California, which will negatively impact mail delivery service for Nevadans. Under your proposal, if one of my constituents in Reno were to mail a birthday card to her mother who lives on the other side of town, the letter is going to be driven 130 miles over to Sacramento, California, and then sent 130 miles back to Nevada to reach its final destination. And so I'd like to understand what analysis you undertook to...
Postmaster. I'm not familiar what any of this is with Postmaster. Is that a company? Mark Cuban came out earlier today saying mainstream media is all right-leaning. Mark Cuban's been wild lately. He's been saying some crazy stuff. He's definitely on the Kamala train. I can tell you that. Yeah, he's been almost like, is he clickbaiting to try to get attention? Is that his thing now? Because maybe he's not as relevant as he used to be.
conclude that moving mail processing from Reno to Sacramento would actually benefit Nevadans. Your staff has continued to assert that your plan won't undermine delivery standards for Nevada.
U.S. mail? I didn't know they called it Postmaster, man. I don't mail anything. Come on, bro. I did hear something about this. I'm not really up on the issue. Let me see if I can find. If something about they were cutting funding to U.S. mail or something like that. I know a guy that said centrist will cause fascism. Let me see. All right. What's the issue? Get me up to speed here. Oh, okay, that's not coming up. Latest news on post office scandal. Is that what we're looking at? Overturn convictions and financial redress. I don't think that's it. Post office Horizon scandal. Is this it from The Guardian? September. And of course, I click on the article and it doesn't tell me anything. Here's Sky News talking about it. Maybe they got something better. And then nothing comes up when I click on their thing. Okay. This is from August. Post office inquiry, 4 key moments and what happens next. No, that's not really telling me either. Well, maybe she'll tell me. DeJoy was appointed by Trump and fucked up the post office operations. Better question, who uses the postal service? I can't remember the last time that I've used the postal service, to be honest. I haven't mailed anything in a long time. Most things you send electronically now. Unless you have a business, then you're going to mail your product. But even then, you could do UPS too as well. How did he fuck up the post office operations? And am I right in that I heard that they're trying to cut funding to the post office? Is that what's going on? Not really a scandal. Okay. What's the issue? me see if they tell me.
But they haven't been able to explain how this is possible or provide me any of the data you've collected. And per what you just said, your team, they came and met with us, but they have not engaged with stakeholders in Nevada. I've talked to every one of our city councils. They have yet to receive data, and Senator Cortez Masto, myself, and Congressman Amodei didn't receive it either. So I'd like to ask you a few yes or no questions, please, because my time is limited. Mr. DeJoy, the Postal Service standard for receiving and delivering mail in the Reno area is 2 days. The Postal Service is already failing to meet this standard, with outbound mail and service in Reno currently averaging about 4 days. I point this out because in order to take local mail from Reno to Sacramento and back to Reno as you propose, your trucks will need to go through the Donner Pass.
I mail 1 check a month, so people are not getting the weekly ads in time. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what you're getting in the mail anymore, is just coupons, if you're lucky. But even that can be electronic. Junk mail being delivered to the wrong address. This would have been a major story in 1805. Yeah, I'm like, what is, do they need a committee for this? Like, what's going on? Like, she's talking about higher expectation of days to get your mail. Like, okay, that's fair, sure. That's annoying, especially when Amazon can do same day delivery. That's annoying. Mail-in ballots for 1 point of contention. Why is this video dated April? Is this the wrong video? Is this not the issue at hand here? I'm clueless on this issue entirely. What's going on?
Hope you're familiar with that.
I just searched DeJoy getting tore up in Congress, and this is the first thing that came up.
It's on I-80. It's the only way to get through Reno to Sacramento, which is subject to some of the most extreme weather conditions in the contiguous United States, with over 33 feet of snow annually, 100-mile-per-hour winds, and treacherous conditions during wildfire season. So, Mr. DeJoy, yes or no, do you happen to know how many days per year, on average, the Donner Pass is closed due to extreme weather conditions?
Why would I know that?
Well, you're...
He said, why would I know that? What are you talking about, bitch? Stupid. Ours has slowed since DeJoy. Okay, so the issue is they're saying that he's poorly managing the Postal Service. That's what I'm getting. And we're having more days being added on. This is the old one. Where's the new one? Let's see the new one. Let me check the date. Maybe I didn't pull the right date. I threw in DeJoy. I thought mail-in ballots were always dropped off in at a box, or people you've never seen come grab them for you. I'm partially kidding at the last point. He's made a lot of cuts. I mean, is he making cuts because nobody's using the post office anymore and he has to keep it afloat? Our whole state votes by mail. Is there any interesting stories to talk about? I got sidetracked now. I was looking at the hurricane.
Out of harm's way.
I'm in
because
Florida.
Later today, we're going to see tropical storm force or worse winds right
This
here
is
in Crystal
live.
River and all along the U.S. Highway 9.
I kept saying that, oh, I don't see any rain or anything yet. Well, apparently it hasn't even hit landfall, so that's probably why I haven't seen anything.
19 corridor. So it's not safe for us to put our small craft out on the border to try and go out and rescue somebody.
Last year with Hurricane Idalia, Hunter Springs and Crystal River overflowed. The water overcame the banks of this river very quickly. It brought 3 to 4 feet of storm surge in. The fear this...
My mom retired from the Postal Service. She's always stated that the USPS ran at a deficit profit. That's why the funding is U.S. government, but it's not a government entity. Interesting. I've always heard that that's a good job too, though. Like they get a pension, which is rare for most people nowadays. Nobody gets a pension. I'd search, but I can't post the link. I responded to your comment, by the way. I sent you my email, and then also I was thinking maybe we should do like a Discord so we can have links. I'm pretty sure you can post links on Discord. Have like a video channel in there. Yeah, so hurricane still hasn't hit landfall. That's why I'm not seeing anything right now. That makes sense. I thought it was already going to hit by like 11, considering it's 3 o'clock right now. But, hey, Claudia, I'm kind of waiting on this Vice President Harris and President Zelensky address to see what they're going to talk about. It's supposed to start at 3, so like 2 minutes from now. That's kind of what I was BSing around, waiting for it to start. And then Biden and Harris are supposed to talk about gun violence later in the day. Apparently they passed some kind of legislation that Karine told us wasn't a gun ban. I heard Ukraine just pushed forward into Russian land. Yeah, they've been pushing for probably about a month now. They're in Russia and they're requesting long range missiles. So that's what people are kind of wondering with this speech coming out is the US going to authorize long range missiles into Russia? And Putin has already said allowing that is a huge act of war and they will consider the nuclear option. So it's kind of a big deal. Forbes has the video. Let's see. Probably boring though. Yeah, I think I saw they had the long form video. It's like 2 hours long, so I'm gonna skip that. I don't think people care about the post office too much. And there's not a juicy scandal going on with it. I want to see this Ukraine with Harris speech, so I'm gonna probably tune into that. It's actually live from the White House. So while we wait for this to actually start, I'm gonna go to the restroom because I think it's gonna be a long one. She still hasn't started. Let's see. The best site for political talking is YouTube. I don't know why. You mean like live streaming? I think in general, when it comes to live streaming, YouTube is better, just all around. It seems like Twitch is dying. No? I'd like to report Zelensky under the red flag laws, also report fraud, waste, and abuse to the base IG. The base IG is just the HR of the civilian world. That's all it is. They're not actually there to help you. They're there to support the commander. Because Twitch has a very narrow-minded political take, while YouTube has a plethora of talking points from right to left to whatever ideology think about. There's a community for it on YouTube, not on Twitch. Yeah, exactly. I've seen Twitch. That's not true. I was gonna say Twitch is mostly left-leaning, but not really. I've had some like extreme MAGA people come into my Twitch before, like the tinfoil hat MAGA guys. So that's not really true. But yeah, Twitch or not Twitch, YouTube is definitely more diverse. Usually the people on YouTube are more rational thinking, what I've seen. It's just my opinion. I think Twitch is dying. I don't know if it's going to be around for much longer. Especially if Kick actually figures out a way to make it take off and you can actually pay the streamers on there, I think Twitch would be done. For some of the large streamers, I like to chat on Facebook. They do streams on Facebook too? I didn't know that. Huh. Twitch, Bluetooth, one opportunity as becoming a legend, and they wasted it all. Twitch did? Yeah, Twitch was super popular back in the day. They were really popular. Now they kind of like... When I look at Twitch, it's a lot of weird ASMR chicks like licking microphones, and that's just... It's not my thing. So for people to actually like go on there, you look at the political section and there's not a whole lot of people doing politics. Most people are in the... What is it? Just chatting. And then it's like just people almost like travel vlogging. See a lot of that, which some of that could be cool, you know, if they go to like some place you've never been, they're walking around Japan or something, you know, it could be interesting, but they're probably better served to be on YouTube doing that. As being an older man, being 47, I'm surprised that many people enjoy watching other people play video games. See, I used to think that way too, like about maybe 6 years ago. But I kind of get it. Because here's the thing about like gaming streamers. And I do it myself. I'll game at night when I'm not doing politics. Here's the thing about gaming streamers is that the companies that release the games will give it to the streamers first. So let's say you're really hyped up to get this game. You kind of get an exclusive look by looking at the streamer. So you kind of, you know, you get to talk in the chat with them, view the game, get the first impression of it, decide if you want to actually buy the game, which makes sense to me, you know, like you get a first look at it. And then it also helps the streamer that they're getting the game first because it promotes their channel. It's kind of like everybody wins. Makes sense. But I kind of see what you're saying. If they're playing like a game that's been out there. Like, let's say they're like playing Call of Duty. I don't really get that. Like, you could just go play Call of Duty. Unless they're like some, I don't know, extreme Call of Duty champion or something. I don't know. And if you want to find a good Twitch streamer that you like, you gotta really go down if you see Spanish Russians and every other ethnicity down there. Yeah, the format on Twitch doesn't make sense. Like, to find people. I don't know. I don't know why people really spend a lot of time on Twitch anyway, because as far as like streamers, because they don't make a lot of money over there. Like, Twitch they don't pay. So if you're actually trying to be a full-time streamer, going on Twitch probably isn't the best move. Me and my friends always fought over playing Nintendo. Yeah, me and my brother as well. Yeah, we had the regular Nintendo, the Super Nintendo. He had a GameCube. All of that stuff. But also my friends weren't hot 20-something wearing bikinis. That's the other side of it too. Like, if you're a hot girl, just go play some video games. You're set. Why work a real job when you could go be a Twitch streamer? I told anyone mealing my brother that the only way to become a Twitch streamer is to already have an established audience. You don't think you could do any kind of organic growth on Twitch? I mean, it is harder on Twitch. I mean, dude, just look at my followers on Twitch. I have 33 compared to YouTube, 1,600 already. But there's also only one avenue on Twitch. It's just streaming, where at least on YouTube you can post videos, you can post shorts, you can post live streams and all this stuff. It's a little bit more in depth. Look at the Twitch system. It heavily relies on someone like me to go really, really down to find someone like you. Yeah, they don't promote small streamers at all. That's what I was kind of saying. Like, if you want to be a full-time streamer, I would probably suggest just skipping Twitch entirely. The only reason why I started on Twitch was to multi-stream. I figured if I was gonna do YouTube and Twitch, at least somebody would be in the chat that would talk to me, so I'm not just playing a video game by myself. That's where it made sense. So I had a better chance of having someone come in and at least hang out with me. So that was my plan. It was never like, oh, I'm going to be big on Twitch and make my living from Twitch. Any update on your coffee labels? So I got the labels in. I tried 3 different roasts, but you have to wait to degas the coffee. You got to wait like 10 days before you can even try the coffee. And then from there, I got to kind of perfect it still. But what I want to do, and I might be doing this tonight, depending on what's going on, is I want to take pictures, like set up the bag with the coffee in it and just take pictures so I can start adding that to the website. Because I need to keep on working on the website, at least while I'm waiting on this stuff. But yeah, I roasted the light roast, the medium roast, and the dark roast. I'm just waiting on it to degas. I have a hard time finding your channel in search. Yeah, YouTube doesn't give me a lot of love either, to be honest. How about an orange roast? What's that? A coffee that has a slight hint of orange in it from the roasting process. You know how some whiskeys might have an apple flavor like that. Yeah, I do want to get into that. There's a lot of different flavors that I want to add. Right now I'm just setting up the basics. I'm trying to get a different roast level Brazilian just to have like a base flavor to launch the website. I can't believe what people, including myself, will watch on YouTube. I mean, and that's how it should be. Like, you're watching YouTube they should send you down a rabbit hole of things that you find interesting. And that keeps you on the platform. Everybody wins. You're watching things going down the rabbit hole that interest you. YouTube's making money from the ads of you going there. The people posting videos are supposedly making money. Not as much as YouTube probably, but that's how it goes. Everybody wins. That's how it should work. That's the perfect formula. Where Twitch is just kind of like, you can go over there and you can watch streamers. You can click around there, but the search isn't really in depth. It's kind of lame. What's going on with this thing? What time is it? 3:16. Of course they're late. But yeah, I'm working on the coffee brand still. I'm trying to get it going. It's going to take more time than I thought it was going to take. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I'm trying to make it the best I can. YouTube is just a disappeared Twitch in every format. YouTube is just better at doing something, even TikTok. I don't know how YouTube made shorts better, but my shorts are 10 times better than my TikTok. I'm trying on TikTok, but dude, they don't like me over on TikTok. And I think it's because like TikTok, it's a different platform, obviously. And the things people like on TikTok is not things that I'm into. Like my YouTube channel, I do politics that I also sometimes game on. And then my other channel, I do finance. So like the main things I'm doing is finance and politics, which don't do well on TikTok. People don't care about that shit on TikTok. They want like quick interaction, like not really educational. They don't want to learn anything. They want that dopamine hit. That's it. So for me, TikTok is not getting a lot of love over there. All of a sudden, I'm watching an old lady sit in her yard and struggle with tech. They got you. They got you down the rabbit hole. And when it is about politics on TikTok, it's mainly left. So have a different opinion, you're basically fucked. Yeah, I've seen a lot of left leaning over there for sure. There's some Trump supporters over there too, though. I've had some comments, but I think doing politics over there and doing finance is a failure. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But people do make money on Twitch. Not from the ads mainly, but they have their TikTok shop over there. And if you can get into that, I think that's where people are really making money. I'm not a user of TikTok. Like it's not for me. You need to be doing a Townsend on TikTok? What do you mean a Townsend? It's me, like I don't know like one or two economic libertarians on TikTok. I know, but after that I don't know anyone else. Yeah, they don't politics just isn't a thing on TikTok, really. I'm trying though. Even just to go live on TikTok, you need like 1,000 followers, which I think I have like 1. So, and I'm not getting followers over there. Which why would you do that? Like why would you have a limit on going live? That makes no sense to me. Doug Townsend, he's funny but offensive. You like Doug Townsend? I haven't heard of him. It's probably to stop people from spam streaming constantly. Yeah, it could be. Maybe they don't have enough in their servers to actually support everybody. Oh, I have seen this guy, Chad. Actually, I've watched a few of his videos. He like sells cars. He'll have like a clip in the beginning, and he'll be like, "Oh, whatever," and then he tries to sell you a car. Yeah, he's pretty funny. Question: where did that TikTok ban go? Then it was such a big deal on TikTok, but now it's gone. What happened to it? I don't think it ever actually went through. Let's see. First thing that came up is Tim Walz wouldn't call for a TikTok ban on government devices. That's sketchy. TikTok says US ban would have staggering impact on free speech. The ban was passed? So what does it do? Oh, yeah, yeah. As of April 2023. Just gave them like 6 months to sell. Let's see. So what does that mean for TikTok? Attempted public bans. So what do they ban exactly? Just that government employees can't use it, or what? Let's see. So here's a BBC article. Who wants to ban TikTok in the US and why? TikTok insists it would not provide foreign user data to the Chinese government, which I saw them getting grilled in Congress. As far as I understand, if they don't sell the majority to a US entity, then the government can prohibit app in the US. Ooh, that's spicy. And you said they have 6 months to figure out if they're going to sell? This is from September, so this is pretty up to date, the 16th. How would it work? The most straightforward way for the US to ban TikTok would be to remove it from app stores, such as those operated by Apple and Google. Well, no shit. That's what a ban is. App stores are how most people download the apps. Duh. The bill forbids applications controlled by U.S. adversary countries from being updated and maintained in the U.S. Okay, there you go. It gives broad powers to the president to limit apps with ties to Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Okay, arguments in TikTok's appeal begin in a Washington, D.C. court on Monday, 16th September, so it's already gone through. TikTok has previously called the legislation an unconstitutional ban and affront to the U.S. right to free speech. He previously said the bill would give its social media rivals more power and put thousands of American jobs at risk. I remember them grilling this guy. TikTok is already banned in India. It's also blocked in Iran, Nepal, Afghanistan, Somalia. The UK government's parliament banned TikTok from staff work devices, which makes sense. What else? And then it just talks about them collecting user data, which all of these apps collect user data. So basically, what you're saying, Chad, is they have to decide if they want to sell this bad boy or not, and that's what we're waiting on. That's interesting because I know a lot of people love TikTok, especially younger folk. The younger folk love TikTok more than they love YouTube. I think it's because the U.S. government didn't like the China getting civilian secrets by an app instead of spending billions on spying on us. Yeah, probably. Which I'm sure they do. I'm sure they spy on us from TikTok. I don't question that at all. What other social media app, Instagram, Twitch, they've already failures. The only competition TikTok has is YouTube. Yeah, Instagram's not really where it's at anymore. Yeah, it's mainly TikTok versus YouTube from what I see. Those are your big platforms. That's the reason why Pokemon Go was banned from U.S. military installations. Yeah, I remember that. And there was a running app as well that they banned, especially for people that were deployed. They were giving the perimeter of the base. People were running around different tracks, and they could get that information. I don't know if it was like Nike Run or whatever run app it was, but I remember that being banned as well. And also TikTok promoted me trying these propaganda, like actual propaganda. Yeah, I think TikTok does seem a little propaganda-ish. I've scrolled through it a couple of times, and I don't know, I like YouTube better. YouTube's a better platform. It's all about Rumble. I've never actually gone to Rumble. I know a lot of like far right dudes have exclusive deals over there, and I guess they are making money over there. But I don't know anybody who's actually going to Rumble, you know? Like anybody who's actually using Rumble. No. Usually people go to Rumble once they've been banned from YouTube. That's their only resort. Rumble only exists because Twitch is so bad. Yeah. 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 It's usually what I see is far right people on YouTube will have a backup Rumble for when YouTube bans them for saying something. That's their plan. I'm being facetious. Yeah, exactly. I know, man. But that's what I see. I see like it's strict Republican dudes. They say some crazy shit that YouTube doesn't like, and then next thing you know, all they have is Rumble. It's mainly ultra right people that get banned, not your usual right people. Yeah. I'm talking like extreme right people, you know. Usually the ban is deserved. Like they broke some kind of rule that YouTube had. Eric Adams is cooked. So I saw a little bit of that. They asked him in the White House press brief. Karine didn't want to answer. So he doesn't want to step down. I saw that this morning too. Tony Michaels is streaming there just to troll. On YouTube. Or no, you're talking about Rumble. Let's see if he posted anything on X yet. He streams on a bunch of shit and now has a podcast as well. Yeah, I see he has the Tony Michaels podcast. Is the reason this briefing is taking forever to start is because Zelensky is waiting for the check to clear? Yeah. It's like, if y'all are not paying me for this appearance. The Rush Limbaugh of the left. Yeah, I see it. His handle here. I was just looking at it on X. It's pretty much just memes. Here's to your shitty polls. It has Dark Brandon. He could have avoided all of this for years, but he forgot to run for president. Good to listen when you're pissed off. Yeah, they got Diddy. Diddy's cooked. Someone asked me the other day if I thought Diddy was gonna get out. There's no way in hell Diddy's getting out. He's cooked. He is done. They got Willie Nelson too. That's about how long he's gonna get in prison. I think he's gonna get life. I don't think he's ever gonna get out. I think he's done. I just want the Diddy list and the E list released. I don't think we're gonna get that either. I think they're gonna lock him away for the rest of his life. We're never gonna hear anything else from it. Although 50 Cent is producing a Diddy documentary. It's gonna be on Netflix, and hell yeah, I'm gonna watch that. That sounds exciting. Definitely interesting. Robert is quiet and reserved. This Netflix documentary, man, it's gonna be. It's if it's anything like the R. Kelly one. What was it? Surviving R. Kelly. Oh, it's gonna be good. That was crazy, and that I think that definitely helped get him locked up. Can someone explain to me the appeal of a podcast? Well, it depends on who the guests are. You have to have people who are actually knowledgeable on a subject. Like there's some podcasts that I've watched before, like finance stuff. You know, people that are actually living a financially independent lifestyle and how they've got there and different investing strategies. Like that's interesting to me. If it's just some dude, nah. They have to have something there. I heard that Diddy is Susu. Watch already? Keep Hillary away? What do you mean Susu? Tony's motto is fuck 'em. I don't know what they're doing here. Unalive? Oh yeah, yeah. They could unalive him for sure. In prison, the only Diddy party there's gonna be him getting the D by another black guy. A lot of what gets streamed on YouTube can be listened to in podcast form. Yeah. There's good podcasts. I like podcasts for sure. I wonder when that Diddy Netflix thing is supposed to come out. It's a docu-series. Okay, so that's even better. This was from yesterday. Will he still get baby oil in prison? Doubt it. When is it dropping? Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. So I pulled up an article to see if maybe they know what they're talking about here. Says it's heading to Netflix. Okay, that's great. We got Netflix. Rapper and actor 50 Cent shared on social media Wednesday a Variety report that states his project about Combs has found a home on Netflix. I'm going to look at that to see if maybe he has a clip or something. I've been telling y'all about all this weird shit. I don't do no puffy parties, 50 wrote in the caption. You didn't believe me, but I bet you believe me now. Dude, I like 50 Cent. He's a master troll. He really is. He's good at it. Combe faces up to life in prison if convicted for his indictment in the Southern District of New York on counts of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Okay. Let's see. When is this shit coming out? They're talking about a diss track, but I don't care about that. I want to know about when this is supposed to come out. Thousands of bottles of baby oil. We could believe 50 Cent. Yeah. I petitioned for Cat Williams to get her around the clock security. I like to do Fitty and Eminem karaoke. Who doesn't? Those classic songs. Classic songs. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when it's supposed to come out. Let me just Google that and see if it's... When does it come out? So from an hour ago, Newsweek is reporting that it's to be determined. So still nothing yet. But I'm excited for it. Make sure there's nothing on his X account. He posted something here. Let's see. I have a question. What's the black community's opinion on Eminem? That wouldn't be for me to answer, brother. Definitely not black. Let me see this though. This dude's actually pretty funny. Let me restart it.
I'm pretty sure it was Diddy that posted a picture of himself. I don't know where he was. Maybe it was New York, maybe it was not Miami or something, but he was on a bike and he was just riding his bike, and then 50 Cent commented, "You know he's smiling because there's no seat on that bike." 50 Cent is funny, and he's not the one. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, he's pretty good at trolling people. I've been a hip hop head since the late 80s. Hell yeah. Greetings, brother. Do you also support Donald J. Trump? Asking me to commit to saying that I support Trump is a hard thing to do, man. You're not lying. This guy's funny. Yeah, he's got some good stuff. I've watched some TikTok, or not TikToks, but shorts with him. M is fully accepted for the most part. I'm white and Mexican and grew up in the hood. Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's accepted. I know there was something going on a while ago where they were saying, what'd they say? He said he was like a guest in the House of Hip Hop or something. Some weird shit like that. But I think that was just people trying to be divisive, you know? The only thing funny is Joseph Biden and his wife, Kamala Harris. Okay. I can't believe this thing still hasn't started yet. I hope I did not offend you. I'm not offended. I'm good. I'm just waiting for this damn speech to start. I don't know what they're doing. I support him going to prison. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look very good for him. Let's just put it that way. I mean, especially after we watch this docuseries and I see more of the evidence. I don't know a whole lot about the case. I know there's a lot of people coming out and saying he's done all these crazy things, and you know, that's what we're gonna have a trial for. But that's probably why I'm excited about the docuseries, to see what all happened. And it's something by 50 Cent, so you know it's gonna be good. Can someone explain to me why there's such a preference of Russian people on Twitch politics? Isn't that weird? Can someone research that? Yeah, I've definitely, that's kind of what I was talking about before, man, when I said there was a lot of like very far right, like over MAGA. Like there's MAGA and then there was like out there people on Twitch. For what? Getting the most votes in history? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I thought you were talking about Diddy. If Gendrick, I think he was talking about Diddy, not Trump, if that's what you're talking about. Bot farms. That is a thing for sure. I've noticed it on YouTube as well. You post a short and you just have, from both sides you have bot farms. I'm going to tell you 4 more years later, it's going to be a civil war in America due to voting elections. I think we're good. We're fine. Everything's fine. Let's just calm down. Everything's going to be okay. I'm telling myself that to reassure myself. I was talking about Trump. Oh, okay. I was confused. I thought you were talking about Diddy. The old diddler, you know. Here's what Chad was talking about with what's his face? Mark Cuban. I have a question. Did anyone actually care about the Epstein list? Wasn't Biden on it? I never saw the list. I don't know. Do people care about it? Yeah, I see it mentioned all the time that people actually want the list. Let's see what this dude actually said. I heard he was talking some craziness.
Spite of that, meaning the mainstream media is not who you think it is. The mainstream media truly leans right. Maybe. When you're second in command, you do what your boss tells you to do.
All right, the mainstream media does not lean right. That's some craziness.
He delegates authority to you.
But the border was supposed to be her.
Yeah, but it's still the same thing. It's his policies. What he said to her was, you go down and you use diplomacy to try to improve, to try to reduce the flow, the migration of people across the border, right? And when they finally came around, and it took too long, I agree, but when they finally got there, now look at the results. It didn't take a wall, but yet the crossing numbers are where Trump's were when pre-pandemic, at the same number. So it worked. So what she did actually worked.
We can look at exactly what happened. He's already been president. And we can look at what happened when she was vice president. And it's not good, the comparison.
Being the president, Joe, as you know, is different than being vice president. It's not close, right?
So she can take credit for the good things that happened with Biden, but she didn't have anything to do with the bad things.
Trump,
in the past, there have been Democrats that have voted not to certify.
Yeah, that's fine.
Many
right,
times.
that's fine. But
previous election,
none of them called their vice president a pussy and said, don't certify the election. Donald Trump, being the socialist that he is, had to beat Bernie. So Donald Trump went out and recommended that interest rate caps be set to 10%. The fact that he's even suggesting price controls and price caps is socialism 101.
Okay, the last one, I do kind of agree with him that was a little weird, that he wanted to cap credit card interest. That one wasn't too far out there. To say he's a straight up socialist, no, I don't really agree with that, but the policy was a little bit weird. The funniest thing is the left say the government is right wing, but the right say that the government is left wing. What is the government with an honest opinion? Is it both sides at the same time? No, but Trump is all over it. He's flying around in his old jet. What's going on, Danky? The government is a left wing concept. I think they're actually starting. Let me pull back. Video. Let's see. There we go. So it looks like they're actually going to be starting here. It's Vice President Harris
Zelensky, it is good to
and
see
Zelensky.
you again. This is our 7th visit together, and welcome back to Washington, D.C. As I have made clear on our 6 previous meetings and throughout Putin's brutal aggression and war against Ukraine, my support for the people of Ukraine is unwavering. I've been proud to stand with Ukraine. I will continue to stand with Ukraine, and I will work to ensure Ukraine prevails.
What we're really looking at here is to see if there's going to be an announcement that the U.S. will support them using long-range missiles into Russia. That's kind of what we're looking at.
In this war. To be safe, secure, and prosperous, the United States must continue to fulfill our long-standing role of global leadership. We must stand with our allies and our partners. We must defend our democratic values and stand up to aggressors. And we must stand for international order, rules, and norms. Each one of these principles is at stake in Ukraine. And that is why Ukraine's fight matters to the people of America. The Ukrainian people are bravely defending their homes and their homeland, their freedom and their democracy against a brutal dictator. And the American people know well the meaning of freedom, of independence, and the importance of rule of law. These ideals are central to who we are as Americans. And some of the most important moments in our history have come when we stood up to aggressors like Putin, just as we must today. Indeed, standing with our friends and defending our ideals against tyranny has helped make America the most powerful and prosperous nation in the world.
She wanted to say, make America great again. She caught herself, though.
Putin's aggression is not only an attack on the people of Ukraine, it is also an attack on fundamental principles such as sovereignty and territorial integrity. International rules and norms are not some abstract notion. They provide order and stability in our world. They support American security and American prosperity. And when they are threatened anywhere, they are threatened everywhere. History has shown us if we allow aggressors like Putin to take land with impunity, they keep going. And Putin could set his sights on Poland, the Baltic states, and other NATO allies. We also know that other would-be aggressors around the world are watching to see what happens in Ukraine. If Putin is allowed to win, they will become emboldened. And history reminds us, and history is so clear in reminding us, the United States cannot and should not isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. Isolation is not insulation. So then, the United States supports Ukraine not out of charity, but because it is in our strategic interest. We will continue to provide the security assistance Ukraine needs to succeed on the battlefield, as demonstrated by President Biden's significant announcement earlier today. I've been proud to work alongside President Biden and the 50-nation coalition we have built up to allow Ukraine to defend itself. Thanks to this coalition
Thanks for the sub.
and the skill and the bravery of the Ukrainian people, along with your courageous leadership, President Zelensky, Ukraine has stood up to Russia's aggression, and today, Kyiv stands free and strong. President Zelensky, I am clear. Putin started this war, and he could end it tomorrow if he simply withdrew his troops from Ukraine's sovereign territory. Of course, he has demonstrated no intention of doing that. Instead, he continues to assault civilian infrastructure and terrorize the people of Ukraine. In Switzerland in June, along with 90 other nations at the Ukraine Peace Conference, I told you that the United States shares your vision for the end of this war, an end based on the will of the people of Ukraine. And
You see his face? He's like, yeah, I'm getting that check. Here we go. See, you can see what happened 2 times. I want to see them get Crimea back. Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I'm with you. Obviously, Russia is the aggressor. But here's what we have to decide. Do you support them having long-range missiles into Russia? As Russia has already said, that will be the nuclear option when they retaliate. So what do you do in that situation? Mask off, just like she said, they support Ukraine not because they care about Ukraine, but because it is in their interests. Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're not getting anything out of this war. Let's be realistic. It's been a great test bed for us to test our military capabilities, to implement the latest technologies and just do things that benefit us as a whole. As you know, we can look at the amount of money being spent and say that was kind of a waste, but we are getting something out of this. Can it be both? Both of what? That it is you care about, oh, okay, that they care about Ukraine and that it's also in our interest. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be both. I'm not opposed to the war, obviously. I think where we're at now is just deciding, now that Ukraine is pushing into Russia and they're doing a good job of defending themselves, do we allow them to use weapons that can bring on a bigger war? That's where we're at.
the UN Charter, and that we must work with the international community to secure a just and lasting peace. And I told world leaders there, nothing about the end of this war can be decided without Ukraine. However, in candor, I share with you, Mr. President, there are some in my country who would instead force Ukraine to give up large parts of its sovereign territory, who would demand that Ukraine accept neutrality and would require Ukraine to forego security relationships with other nations. These proposals are the same of those of Putin. And let us be clear, they are not proposals for peace.
Not only test technology, but also sell lots of weapons to Ukraine and weaken Russia's economic position and position on the world stage. Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Danky, you got it. That's above my pay grade, but they are kicking ass with the drones. Yeah, see, I mean, that's where I'm at with it. It's like, do you allow them to use these long range missiles? I saw Zelensky came out yesterday, and he's worried about a occupation around a nuclear power plant. He's worried about a new Chernobyl kind of event happening, and that's how he's basically requesting the funding here.
Instead, they are proposals for surrender, which is dangerous and unacceptable. So, President Zelensky, I look forward to our discussion today, and I will continue to work with you to ensure Ukraine prevails in this conflict and remains a free, democratic, and independent nation. Welcome back again.
Thank you so much. Madam Vice President, thanks for the invitation. Happy to see you. Dear journalists, I want to especially thank you for your participation in the Peace Summit. And really, it was very important, and we remember it. The format was successful. We are preparing the second one now. We have to end this war. We need a just peace, and we must protect our people, Ukrainian families, Ukrainian children, and everyone from Putin's civil. And we are grateful to America for supporting Ukraine all along. And we'll have an important meeting today, right after I'd talked to President Biden about the plan of victory, and I will share some details of the plan with Vice President Harris. It's crucial for us to be fully understandable and to work in a full coordination with the United States. And this morning I talked also to the congressmen, both chambers, both parties, and I'm thankful for the bipartisan support. We believe this war can be won and just peace can be closer only with the United States. Madam Vice President, this is our, you said, seventh meeting? Seventh. And not last. And the third meeting, as far as I remember, the third meeting this year. Yes. Thank you. And I want to inform you about the latest developments on the battlefield, of course, and about Ukraine's actions in the Kursk region, on what has been achieved and the ambitions ahead. Today we have a new strong support package, as you said, and we have common view on the things that need to be done. We have to keep pressure on Russia to stop the war and to make truly lasting and just peace. It's a top priority for us and for other freedom-loving nations to achieve not a freezing, but real peace for us. So we need to keep sanctions against Russia strong, and we need to use the proceeds from immobilized Russian assets to protect Ukraine, our people, our cities, our front line from Russian evil. And of course, we must work hard to bring all Russian war criminals to justice. And one more thing, I want to inform Madam Vice President about the latest Russian missile and Shahid's attacks against Ukrainian energy infrastructure. We need to urgently strengthen Ukraine's air defense to save thousands of lives and reduce Russian terror to zero. It's achievable. Thank you again. Thanks, America. Thanks.
This is where he says, hey, I need my paycheck.
To you, Madam Vice President. Slava Ukraini.
Oh, I thought they were going to take questions. Really? Really? They said on the White House press briefing that they were going to take questions. That's shitty. These jerks. Yeah, I'm pissed, Paul. Because they said in the White House press briefing that they were going to take questions. Why would they not take questions? What did I miss? You missed, to summarize it in 2 seconds, Kamala said, "We support Ukraine." And then Zelensky said, "We need money." And that was pretty much it. That's what you missed. And then the journalists started trying to ask questions to them, and they said, "We gotta go." And Harris said, "The door's this way," and they ran. Well, I think that's going to be it for me for today. So Kamala is a warmonger. No wonder she got Cheney support. Of course. Of course. More money for Ukraine. They didn't announce anything about the long-range missiles, so that's the only thing I wanted to hear. Let me see if
7 cities as well as county government does plan to open tomorrow. So that, again, is barring any type of emergency or deep impact as these squall lines come through. But right now, the plan is to respond to anything that does happen.
Here we go. Am I going to get wrecked? That's the question. It doesn't look like it. Yeah. It says it's just hitting the Big Bend, so we still got some time. Still nothing outside. Nothing crazy. Anyway, I'm going to log off. Y'all have a great day. Or rest of your day, I guess it is. It's already in the PM. But anyway, I'll see y'all.